Oh, okay, real good. Okay, sorry. A few technical issues. Can everyone hear me now? Sorry. Uh, yeah, am I coming through loud and clear now? Yeah, sorry. I disconnected the mic and the camera at the same time. So, am I coming through loud and clear? Let me just bring Alexy on now because I need confirmation that I am actually coming through. So am I coming through loud and clear now?
You are. I got you.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
No, when I disconnected the camera and the mic before we went live, just because I had things to do, and then when I came back, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was like, "Oh shit!" And then I couldn't find my phone because I've got my list on my phone, and I was like, couldn't find my phone.
Right.
So disorganized before a live stream. It's like I'm always like
No worries.
relaxed. No, I'm always like sort of like thinking I've got it all under control, and I think, well, 11:30 start.
Yeah.
I'm all good. I'm good. And then it gets like 11:15. I'm like, oh shit. I'm so ill prepared, and like, but yeah, it's all good now. So I found my phone.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Excellent.
mic's working, camera's working. So anyway, how have you been, man? Been good?
I've been good. Yeah. I don't know quite why, but I've kind of like trailed off in terms of my reviews, but I'll get that back on track. It's just, I don't know, like life was just happening the last few days and it never felt right. Plus, a lot of the stuff I watched, I kind of enjoyed, but not necessarily enough to the point where I felt I really had anything to really say about it. So I was just resorting to shorts. But I have one or two that I think I'll probably pick it up again within a couple of days here. But how about you?
Yeah, not bad. JT is in the chat, so he really should be joining the stream if he's got any.
Yes.
JT, are you joining? Are you going to jump on JT, or are you going to say? Yeah, I get what you're saying about movies you're like indifferent to. It's it's hard to kind of like muster up a kind of response if it's just a film that you like. It was okay. If you hate it, you might review it. If you love it, you review it. But if it's just a film that's just like, well, why would they make the effort to make a 10-minute video on a movie that is just, it is what it is. But if it's something like really, if it's something that really dislike, maybe you might just think, you know what, I need to let other people know about this film. I need to how much I dislike this film, and if you love it, even more so. But yeah, I understand. I understand what you're saying. So, but
yeah, well, it's that, and sometimes it's just, even if it's a movie that I liked to some degree, if I sort of like have listened around a bit and thought that I don't really have anything to say that hasn't already been said, then just sometimes I just don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just have a quick look at the comments. Dan's in the chat. What's up, Dan?
Hey.
We've got Cliff Booth in the chat. AJ's Movie Place, which I'm not sure whether. Are you new to the channel, AJ? Because I don't know if I've seen your name in the comments before. We've got Ben in the chat as well. What's up, Ben? Gareth from Video Tasty was here earlier on. He'll be tucked up in bed now. It's way past Gareth's bedtime. And of course, we've got here he is. You had me worried, JT. You had me worried.
Yeah.
There he is.
My daughter ate dinner and was running around, so I had to put her. My mom.
I said to Alexy when before we went live, because I sent you the link on StreamYard to your DMs, and it just says sent, and it's like 10 minutes to 10 minutes before we go live, and it just still says it's not seen. I'm like, oh no, JT.
Yeah, it's not seen.
It's like because like you were live streaming like this morning. I was like,
oh
you were live stream. And I was like, JT, go to bed, because it's like 4:30 in the morning in the US. So please go to bed. Just please go to sleep and just make sure you're available for this stream tonight. But you're here. It's all good.
I'm good.
It's all good. I hope you've got your list ready. So
I said mentally ready. Yes.
Yeah. So I said to Alexy, it's basically a case of what we'll do is we'll go 10, 10, 10, 9, 9, 9. in a clockwise order.
Yeah,
so
that's a good way. That's a good way of doing
it. Before we do that, we'll have some like honorable mentions which didn't quite make the top 10 because it's been a good year. I think we'll all agree it's been a really good year.
Yeah, I think it definitely has. For the most part,
definitely a very good year. Yeah.
And we'll also mention a couple of like the films we really hated. A couple of films which we thought were just like outright bad. And maybe like a most disappointing movie, for like in terms of like what film were you really looking forward to, but just let you down. You just thought it was. I think.
Yeah, that's a good.
I know what mine is. But let's just quickly jump back in the chat again. Ben says they already have a sequel to Terror Train remake out. I mean, as far as I was read,
I saw that. I haven't watched it yet, though.
But
I haven't watched it either. I saw it on Tubi. I said, "What? A sequel to the remake?"
And I had to rub my eyes, man. I couldn't believe that.
Isn't the remake like only like 6 months old or something?
Yeah, it only came out like they brought it around Halloween or something like that.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck, man? I was like, someone put it on whatever it was. I can't remember, like in the DMs on Twitter or something. And I was like, shit, really? I mean, it's like, and it's got like a 5.7 on
it was so weird
IMDb, and I'm like, that's a good decent score. I was like, what the fuck? But yeah, that because I was kind of like thinking, like, what is a good New Year's Eve horror film? And I was like, because obviously Terror Train is a New Year's Eve, the original.
New Year's Eve.
And there's also, I've not seen New Year's Evil. It's on YouTube.
It's all right.
I'm gonna watch it tomorrow.
Great. It's all right. Yeah, I'm gonna watch it tomorrow too.
Because I was kind of like, I was like scouring like the torrent sites for it, and like wasn't having much luck. And then you go on YouTube, the amount of stuff on YouTube for free, which is it's insane. It is. And you go on these torrent sites to look for these films, and they're not there. And you just go on YouTube, and they're just there in good quality as well. So New Year's Evil, that's my New Year's Eve movie sorted, because I've never seen the film. So
it's all right. It's not like a great slasher or anything, but it's decent. It's decent. It's nothing like fantastic. Yeah. We need like a really good, like fantastic, like New Year's slasher.
Yeah, we do.
There's plenty of like sort of like scenarios you could like use for the setup.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You can do a lot with that.
But it's never really transpired. But so let's let's shoot to the chase, so to speak. So in terms of like, we won't get into the top 10 yet. Let's just start off with like what you would consider like your most disappointing like horror film, in terms of like a film that you were like expecting to be something, and it just turned out to be just such a disappointment. So start off with Alexy. Go on. What?
Well, when you put it in terms of the one that I was sort of setting myself up for a bit more, that makes it easier because I had 2 big disappointments this year. But when you put it that way, I have to bring up the Hellraiser remake. I mean, as much as there's things about that movie that had a lot of potential and were done well, in the end, I was really let down. It felt like a movie that just pulled way too many punches, pulling punches in a way that I would expect it to if this was a movie that was being trimmed for like a theatrical or release or something. And that's weird because that movie, as we all know, came out on streaming, right? And they had no restrictions really. And David Bruckner knows how to work outside of restrictions. Certainly, we all, anyone who's seen any of his other movies,
I love him.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's got the balls for it, but I don't know. It's like they got cold feet or stage fright or something. But it felt like it teased me, and I wanted it to go all the way.
Yeah, I saw your Hellraiser review and stuff. I agreed with that. But like it could have done a lot more with the gore and the sex stuff,
yes, absolutely.
that's in the Hellraiser series, which I'm not a big fan of the series anyway, but they could have done more. Mm-hmm. Like for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it never like jumped the shark or like sunk itself majorly in any way, but it just, again, it had no teeth. It didn't have enough bite to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had fun with it just from not being a Hellraiser fan, really. So like, I didn't have any like preconceived notions for it. I just kind of said, "All right, cool. It's a remake of Hellraiser. I'll check it out." And it was all right. It was fun, but it was nothing fantastic or anything by any means.
Yeah, it's probably similar to me. That's one of my honorable mentions, which I'll get to. JT, what was your biggest disappointment of 2022?
I don't really have one that I was really looking forward to that disappointed me. If anything, like movies I thought would maybe be a little better was like Smile and Barbarian. I was expecting a little more from it from all the talk that they were getting, but I don't know. Smile just didn't. It has some good stuff in it, but it's just like your run-of-the-mill horror film. Like there's really nothing like that stood out for it. And Barbarian was decent. It reminded me too much of Castle Freak. It was like an urban setting Castle Freak, like with some other like unique stuff thrown in, but most of it like it felt kind of unoriginal. So that one didn't really hit for me, Barbarian.
Okay, so my biggest disappointment was a film that I'm surprised nobody's mentioned because I don't consider it. It's a bad film, but it's not like horrendously bad. It's just for me. It was just it's obviously Halloween Ends. You know,
Yeah,
I was expecting.
that was coming up.
I wasn't expecting it to be, a work of art. I wasn't expecting anything to the level of the 78 or Halloween 4, but I expected more than this. I mean, I don't know, because it's not like it's a well-made film in terms of like, everything that goes into it. It's just the story. The story is just for me. It's just bizarre.
Yeah, it definitely felt like a weird cross step because everything was building up to this big final confrontation, and that stuff with involving Corey, honestly, on its own terms, it's not bad, but in the context of this trilogy, it just felt weird. Yeah, and on its own terms, like it was an original movie, it might have been okay. Sorry, go ahead, man.
No, for like the release, like during like the last one in this trilogy. Then they just bring in all this weird stuff with the boyfriend and everything. Like it just, I don't know. It made no sense to me.
It should.
The whole movie is a dumpster fire.
We've discussed this like probably about 3 or 4 times now, especially me and JT. But it's just like Corey should have been in 2018.
Yes.
If not 2018, he should have at least been in Kills.
Yep.
He's thrown in at the last minute. And his fall from grace, so to speak, from just being like a fairly normal functioning human being to just a crazed killer, it just happens at such a short period of time that it's just not totally unrealistic. And the whole Haddonfield becoming corrupted by Michael and Haddonfield turning into like some sort of like urban ghetto was just bizarre.
Yeah,
I just didn't. Haddonfield was never meant to be that sort of place, and Haddonfield is this Haddonfield is the Haddonfield of 78. It's the same universe, and I know it's 40 years removed, but Haddonfield should never feel like a Rob Zombie Halloween movie.
Yep.
In this John Carpenter universe, it should not feel like a Rob Zombie urban nightmare. Like, you know what I mean? It shouldn't feel like fucking Barbarian or It Follows.
It looks so weird at Haddonfield, like a bomb hit it, and like now it's like this like wasteland.
It seems like something happened there that no one wants to talk about for some reason. Like
people were flying over, and they're like, "Oh my god, what happened down there?" Like, and it was so weird how it looked.
And I mean, I get it. I mean, I know the people who like love the film, like supposedly love the film, but like, I'm seriously, if you're putting this film here, where the hell are you putting the 78 version? Because that's going to be somewhere that you can't even describe because it's so far removed from the 78 version. I mean,
very.
My God. But I mean, that's for me. Yeah, it's a film I didn't like. it's not offensively bad. It's just a crushing disappointment because, you know, Kills wasn't perfect, but my God, Kills is starting to look like a better film on each and every watch now after that.
Well, Kills had energy at least, right?
It did.
And a sense of fun. I mean, it got a bit overzealous with that whole sort of like heavy-handed message about mob mentality, but at least it was never boring. I was never bored by that movie.
The first 10 minutes are just amazing. Amazing.
The intro to it are great.
So good.
And the way they put Dr. Loomis in there, Pleasance in there, and handled all that. Is that the beginning of Kills? Or is that the beginning? I don't even know, right?
No, I think that was the beginning of Kills.
Okay.
It is, yeah.
I was thinking
it is.
Ends and Kills. I was like, all right, yeah, no, it's Kills. But they did a great job with that. I couldn't. That's why I didn't mention it really, because I had no expectations for the movie, so I wasn't let down like too much because I expected it to be just terrible.
I kind of didn't have any expectations, but I can't honestly say it's like a badly made film. It's just
no, it's not.
It's just
like from a technical standpoint. No,
it doesn't. But it just doesn't fit with. It's just the wrong film at the wrong time. It doesn't fit with the whole what's gone before it. So, you know, if this was a completely different, if this was this would have been better if they'd taken the Corey story and removed Michael completely from the picture and made like I've said this before. I mentioned it on a stream with Alexy a few weeks ago. If you were going to do a Haddonfield TV show, and Michael was removed from the picture completely, and he was just kind of like a boogeyman in the background, you could have made a show around Corey.
Yeah,
you know, without Michael's
just shoehorned in the movie.
Yeah, you could have done that. It just happened to be set in Haddonfield, but the fact that they've just shoehorned him into this film at the very last minute, and just the fact that Laurie is like this happy-go-lucky, you know. Yeah, like my daughter's been murdered. Michael's on the loose. He's murdered about 15 people, but life's good.
Yeah.
But in 2018, when Michael was in prison and he hadn't killed like anyone for 40 years, I was fucked up with PTSD. That made
and then it just switches like a light switch.
Yeah, it's like you don't go from PTSD to something even more traumatic and then just be like, oh, life's great. Yeah, come on.
Granted, they mentioned that some time has passed by the time we get to that third movie, but it does feel very strange when it's left on a very deliberate cliffhanger of like, okay, I'm coming to fuck you up, Michael, and you know, you ruined my life. You're the curse of my heart. You're this or that. And then the next movie goes up and it's just like, oh, never mind. No, yeah, we're cool.
Yeah, I'm good now.
Oh, okay.
So weird how they handle Laurie.
It should have been a complete 180 with Laurie. It should have been Laurie in 2018. Should have been the happy-go-lucky character who's moved on. She's had a child. She's got grandkids or a grandchild. Life's good. She should be like the character from H2O, maybe, and without the drink problem. You know,
I love 20 years how they do it in H2O. I love how they handle Laurie's trauma and stuff in that movie. Even though I don't care for H2O, I think they handled it so much better in H2O than
it's
this trilogy.
The portrayal of Laurie in H2O was way better than anything in this trilogy. It's far more realistic. The idea that she's a functioning alcoholic with a good job makes way more sense than this prepper living in the wilderness on the outskirts of Haddonfield, preparing for like a showdown with Michael when he's been locked. He wasn't in this universe. He was caught on the night and sent to prison. And in 40 years, he's never even tried to escape. So it doesn't make any sense that she's preparing for this big finale.
It's almost like she remembers him coming back over and over again from another universe.
Yeah, exactly. It's like she's had dreams of Halloween 2, never happened. Halloween 3, Halloween 4, sorry, never happened. It's just
that's sort of what I think I mentioned when I was talking with you, Mike, when we did that other live stream, is that the whole pretense of like doing away with all those quote unquote inferior sequels and like doing a course correction with this legacy sequel, it only works as you can't have a legacy sequel without the legacy, right? And the way that Laurie's acting in that first movie around this whole thing, I've been waiting for Melissa. That really only makes sense if you've got the experiences from those other movies taken into account. Otherwise, I mean, it's a legacy for the audience, but it's not a legacy for her as a character anymore. You made it very explicit that you've done away with all that. So it just doesn't, just a bit miscalculated that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why Halloween is, out of the big slasher movies, that's why it's my least favorite franchise. Because it's like, quality-wise, of all the films in the franchise, it's just all over the place. And most of them, near, like, after H2O, just don't do it for me at all.
Okay, let's go into a few honorable mentions. So I've got a list. I've got a fairly substantial list now of films that didn't make the top 10 because it was a good year for horror, a really good year. So what I'll do is, I'll name my honorable mentions. Now, if this film isn't in, Alexy, if it's not in your top 10 or your top 10, JT, then we'll discuss it, okay? Because obviously, I don't want to talk about a film now and then we don't want to overanalyze a film if it's in the top 10. So my first honorable mention is Nope. So I'm guessing it's not in yours, JT. Is it in yours, Alexy?
It's not in my top 10. It would be one of my honorable mentions as well.
Okay, so we could talk about Nope now then. Okay, so my issue with Nope, why it wasn't top 10, is it felt like a mishmash of different genres and nothing ever quite connected. I didn't really ever feel engaged with the characters in any way. The whole idea of this alien in the sky, it just looked so, at times looked really, really cheap. Like the CGI, whatever they were using, looked really, really bad. There are elements about it I really enjoyed, but for me, it was just I'm prepared to, with Us, the movie didn't make a lick of sense, but I still loved it.
It's great.
It didn't make a lick of sense. The final sort of act, I was like, what the hell's going on? But I still loved the film. Get Out. I love Get Out. I don't think it's as good as Us, but I think coherently it makes more sense than Us. But I don't think it's as an enjoyable film. Nope kind of makes less sense than any of them, but lacks the human element to it for me. It just, nothing about the film quite comes together in the way I think
it should.
It should. I know a lot of people love this film. I'm just like kind of a little bit bewildered by the love that it gets. I mean, it's a difficult one because I don't really know. It's hard. It's not offensively bad. But it's not incredibly good. It's just like this. Again, it's a very, very well shot film. It's very, very well. The cinematography is gorgeous, but the characters, I don't believe in the characters for 1 minute. I don't like the male lead. He just, to me, the female lead is great. The male lead is just, I mean, no, he just mumbles and stumbles his way through the entire film, and I can't get on board with him. I like the tech guy.
The camera worker.
I like him, but again, it's just it's such a strange film. It just nothing really kind of clicks for me.
When I first saw it, when it came out, I saw it on some website I used, but it was like right when it came out, so it was like basically bootleg, like shot in the theater quality. Then I watched it, and I knew already, like with Peele's past and stuff, like. And then when I rewatched it the other night, and I talked about it for 2 hours in a video, the cinematography is amazing. The editing, the directing, the sound design, the acting, all of that is fantastic in Nope. And I love Get Out, and I love Us, despite the tether, like whole explanation for the tether is being absolutely insane. I really love both those movies. This movie just feels so average. Like it's not a great movie for me. It's not a bad movie, same like you said, Mike. But like that was one of the things too I didn't like was I love Daniel Kaluuya, but his character they gave him as OJ just is like a nothing character. Like he's just quiet. He barely like says anything. He doesn't have any energy to him. Like it's like you don't care about that character really. Like the only reason I liked his character was because it was Daniel Kaluuya. Like I was looking at it as the actor. As a character, his character could have been written so much better. And it feels like Jaws. They have a lot of Jaws influence, and I know you love Jaws, Mike. Yeah. So I kind of thought you'd have a little more like for the movie, but it's very Jaws-ish, like with the whole hiding the creature and not showing it right away and everything. Even the guy who comes in, I forget his name, that like has the non-digital camera to get like the shot. He's like the quint of the movie right there, and he even has like a little monologue and stuff. But
I didn't get the point of his character whatsoever.
Yeah, he didn't have to be there at all because they get the shot anyway. Like, so it's like his whole point of that was just, I guess, for him to be killed and eaten by the creature.
Yeah, Dan makes a good point. Dan says he was more engaged with the chimp subplot. The best scene in the film by far is the found footage of the chimp, with the little kid.
Oh, it's a great scene.
That scene is fantastic. Everything else pales in comparison to that. Another good scene as well is
with the movie.
Yeah, there's another good scene I think where he's kind of thinks that, oh man, escapes. He's in the stables and there's something going on. I can't remember the scene exactly, but I seem to remember that being like a tense scene. But like I say, I can't remember that much about it.
Like right before the creature comes down, you get that cool shot of it like on its side and the hole in the center. There's amazing shots in the movie, and like I said, everything from a filmmaking perspective is excellent. I just feel like Peele needs like an editor, like a better editor, someone who can cut the fat off his movies, because you can cut like 15-20 minutes from Nope, like easily. Most of it being the side plot with the chimp, as awesome as it is, has nothing to do with the movie except for being a memory of Stephen Ewan's character. That's it. It's just a memory of his and some traumatic thing. And it helps, develop his character a bit of why he's so obsessed with, show business, making money off of, amazing things and trying to get the most amazing shot and trying to exploit like all these things to make money. But it has nothing to do with the movie. It doesn't tie into the story. So they can cut all that Gordy shit out and it wouldn't change the film at all. So they could have made it shorter, like definitely. But it just didn't do anything for me. It's a good film. That's it.
Alexy?
I mean, I pretty much agree with everything that you guys have said so far. And I did like the movie. I just didn't love it. And it's kind of gone in sort of like descending order for me. Like I still loved Nope, but although not quite as much as Get Out. And this is the one out of all of his that I've enjoyed the least. I mean, like you and JT both said, I mean, from a technical standpoint, like the movie's pretty spotless. And I love the cast. I thought they were great across the board. I didn't even actually mind Daniel Kaluuya that much, to tell you the truth, although I can understand why some people would find him a bit too stoic for his own good in this case. I guess it was just that at the end of the day, something about it underneath it all just felt like it was a bit of a frolic for Jordan Peele. And I mean, I want to see a guy like that, like, pouring it straight out from his heart. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying his heart wasn't in the movie, but it seemed like it was more in the spirit of like, let's just have some fun. You know what I mean? Rather than really digging deep for something. And so it didn't really connect with me on a personal level the way that the other movies did.
Yeah, it's definitely my least favorite of his by far. Like he has been kind of going in the declining order because I like Get Out the most, but I do like Us a very large amount.
Yeah.
So hopefully the next thing from him will be a little bit. It feels like, and another thing I compare it to Jaws, it feels like just like a summer blockbuster, kind of like you were saying, Alexy. Like there's like nothing like deeply resonating about it. It just kind of feels like let's put out this like unique alien movie that'll be like a summer horror blockbuster. That's what it feels like, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Done well enough, mind you, but nevertheless.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, my second honorable mention. This stream could be a long stream, by the way, because we've been going for like 35 minutes. We barely scratched the surface, but my second honorable mention is a I don't know who's streaming this, but I had a really good time with it. It's called Margot. It's like an evil AI house. If you've never seen it, we can just move swiftly on. But yeah, like evil AI. It's like basically a bunch of teens looking for a party. Book like it's some sort of Airbnb type movie, I think. But the house is completely controlled by AI. But the AI is a bit like Skynet, so it turns against the hosts. It's a fun time. It's
Sweet.
dumb movie. You know, it's quite gory at times. It's some likable characters, some characters are dicks. You know, it's a fun time. So yeah, that's definitely worth checking out. Maybe a controversial one, definitely not making my top 10 is Terrifier 2. So if it's in your lists, then we will.
Oh, it is.
We'll move on.
It
Okay,
is, yeah.
Okay, we'll move on then.
It for sure is.
Fourth pick for a wounded fawn. I don't know if anybody's seen that movie.
Alexy has. I still want to see it. I haven't seen it yet.
You seen it, Alexy?
I did. I mean, that was one again. I had some nice things to say, but I didn't love it. But I mean, it was ambitious and it definitely has a lot of like good style going for it. There was that one moment. I won't spoil it because I know that JT hasn't seen it yet, but you might know the part I'm talking about, Mike, near the end. There was one, shall we say, money shot that, definitely, gave me an eyeful.
Yeah.
So I can say good things about it for sure. But I think, yeah, on the whole, I remember that one. Just something about it didn't quite leave me satisfied, but I, definitely did not have a bad experience with it.
Yeah, I won't spoil it because obviously JT hasn't seen it. But I mean, for me, like I love the first half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it goes and does that sort of like about turn, I just kind of like lost me a little bit, and I was invested for the first 30 to 40 minutes. When it does what it does, I was kind of like, because the character I really liked in that movie kind of disappears for a while. So
I think I know what you're talking about too. Yeah.
So it's kind of like, that's what kind of but that whole, the whole grindhouse death, it had like Death Proof Planet Terror feel, that old grindhouse 70s look to it. Love that. Like, but,
and especially, I agree with you. The first half is just is so tense and so well done.
Yeah.
Like they do a really good job of evoking that uncomfortable feeling that you get when I'll let you find out for yourself, but nevertheless, that was all sustained really well. And then when it makes that switch, that's where it's either they're gonna completely fall in love with it at that point, or it might lose you a little bit. But I'll leave that for others to decide.
My next honorable mention is Violent Night. I don't think this is going to be in anybody's top 10, surely.
No.
Have you guys seen it?
I have not seen Violent Night.
No, you're not missing much.
That's what I've heard. That's why
it's not bad. It's not. My only issue with Violent Night. It's the guy from Stranger Things. It's got John Leguizamo. I can't pronounce his name. He's JT. You're from New York. You pronounce it. John Leguizamo.
Leguizamo.
That's it.
Yeah,
you do it better than I do. But
hey, Lorne.
What's up, Lorne? It kind of falls somewhere between Home Alone and like some like funny games, like some sort of like sadistic sort of like home invasion movie, and just kind of falls flat on both because it doesn't know what it wants to be. It kind of wants to be like this like violent, near the knuckle X-rated movie, but then like 3/4 of the way through the movie just starts to resolve, to like doing Home Alone style tricks with the little girl, is playing pranks on like the invaders, and it's like you don't know what you want to be. Do you want to be an ultra violent X-rated movie or like R-rated movie, I should say, or do you want to be like this Home Alone PG-13 movie? So it doesn't really know what it wants to be, and I would have rather it just went full on violent, but it kind of like reins it in at times to get maybe look for that more like middle of the road crossover hit. But so it doesn't really. It kind of lacks an identity, if that makes sense. So if you just want a fun movie, just go and watch Home Alone instead.
Or if you want, okay.
If you want some Home Alone in your horror, watch Better Watch Out.
Yeah, that has a little bit of that is a far better. That's a far better film. Far better film.
Yeah. Great Christmas horror.
So next up on my honorable mentions, this may have made your list, maybe not. Is Orphan First Kill?
Yeah, it made mine.
Okay, so
barely, but it did.
Okay, we'll move on then because it gives you a chance to talk about it. And next movie, I know it's definitely got to be on one of your lists. Is Pearl?
Yeah,
didn't make my list. No,
it's way up there.
Up there.
And again, next film, Smile. Obviously, it's going to be on someone's list.
No, not mine.
No,
not mine.
Okay.
No,
well, let's talk about.
I already mentioned it when I said one that I was looking forward to, but
I thought Alexy. I thought it might be on Alexy's list, but
no, that was another one that was a disappointment for me. Without getting all into it,
Okay, well, we could talk about Smile then.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, my issue with Smile was it kind of felt like. I mean, let's face it; it's very derivative of The Ring and Stranger Things. And there's nothing wrong with the film. It's a well-made, solid film, but watching it, you're kind of constantly reminded about better films that have taken that premise and done it a lot better. I mean, and It Follows is not. I adore It Follows. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, but it's got issues. But because everything like regarding the whole setup, the soundtrack, the setting of the movie, the way it's timeless, it doesn't like really involve anything with smartphones or it kind of like I can oversee like any issues just by the fact that the good points are so good, so great that I kind of like look upon it. Any negative points can just get drowned out by just how the fact that in It Follows, everybody in that movie, all the young cast are all like good people. There's no dicks. It's such a common trope now it's always been a common trope in horror films
to have like that asshole character.
You've got the bitch, the slut, the jock, the douchebag, and in modern movies as well, in modern horror films, it seems to be becoming like a more and more common thing where you're almost meant to root for like the bad guys, almost like as if they're like the good guys. And It Follows was kind of like a throwback where like everybody is like a really good person. They all, even when she's like talking about what's good, and I'm talking about It Follows now rather than what I'm meant to be talking about. It's just it's just like that's how much I love It Follows. It's when she's going through what she's going through, they don't just dismiss her and say they're skeptical, but they're still on board with what she's going through and they're supportive. Whereas, a lot of modern films now, it's just like everybody's just horrible, horrible people in a lot of horror films. And, it's unusual to get a movie where everybody is kind of like a nice person. But going back to Smile, because I've completely gone off track. But
just what It Follows, I love the same thing I love how they made it like not set in a certain time period. And they have old technology there, like old phones, old TVs and everything. But then they have that clamshell, futuristic, like whatever the hell that is, reader. So I like how it's never going to feel like a dated movie. It Follows. Like they did a great job handling all of that for sure.
But you guys' thoughts on Smile?
Like you said, pretty much. I feel like it was very derivative. It had some good stuff. Bacon does a great job in it, and it's just nothing. It's like a run-of-the-mill horror movie. Like it was good. Like an average movie. Like it reminded me of, like you said, The Ring. It reminded me of, what the hell is that movie? All those type of movies, like with like some curse that gets passed on and stuff like that. It just didn't have that strong of an original premise.
And it's almost like
happy with it.
What can we use as like an image that's gonna like like someone with a smile. It's like a smile. It's like, really, You know, it's like what we need.
Truth or Dare.
We need. Oh my God, Truth or Dare. Yeah,
remind me of that.
We need something like to sell the film. So what can we do in terms of like, you know, something that's going to be like an iconic image, and it's just that poster with the smiling face. It's almost just, it's like, you know, we'll use that. We'll use a smile as the curse because we need something for a poster that's going to like be eye catching.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, okay, you know.
It's just Alexy, a very weak premise.
Yeah, Alexy.
Yeah.
What were your
well, that was
on?
sort of the problem that I had with it to a sort of a large degree was that, I mean, I initially liked the visual conceit of the smile. And like you guys already said, again, it's a well-made movie. I will say, if nothing else, it did convince me that this guy, Parker Finn, I think is the director's name, he definitely has a good movie in him. I will say that, you know, but it started with that one inspired visual conceit of that smile, and they just hammer that into the ground with a sledge. Like every scene just is a setup for the smile, and someone dies, and that's it. And I never felt like it really sort of, again, peeled back any layers there. It just kind of recycled that until, you know, she finally got eaten or whatever happened to her at the end there again. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's just a run-of-the-mill horror movie for me.
Have you guys? I can't remember. I've got Hellraiser honorable mentions. Is Hellraiser in anybody's top 10?
Wasn't my top 10, no, but I mentioned it as a disappointment.
Yeah. I couldn't remember it. Yeah. So I actually liked Hellraiser. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of like the original franchise. I've never been a fan of the original movies. I've never seen anything beyond 3 anyway, because after 3, I was like, why would I continue to punish myself watching these fucking films? Because like they just go from like bad to worse to worse to worse. But I actually quite enjoyed this. I think with this film, if you're like a diehard Hellraiser fan of the old films, you probably got issues with this remake. But if you're someone like me who was just a casual fan of the first film and the second film and never really gave that much of a shit about the franchise, you probably come into this film. You come into this film with kind of like well, you know what, that wasn't too bad. You know, because I had no expectations, and I had zero love for the original franchise anyway. So going into this film, it not being like horrible to me anyway, it's kind of like, well, you know what, that was okay. So, you know, I didn't mind it.
Yeah, I felt the same way.
But I could say,
a fan of the franchise either.
I could understand if you were like a diehard, hardcore Hellraiser fan of the original film.
Sure.
Maybe you wouldn't. The only thing I would say about this film is like Pinhead and the, you know, Pinhead's, you know, the sidekicks, but the Cenobites, whatever they call them.
Yeah.
They kind of don't have they kind of lack solidity. If that I've mentioned this before. They have like a kind of, they almost look like CGI characters. Like in the original films, like Pinhead, Doug Bradley is a very, very real physical being on screen. And I know in this film, the main Pinhead is on screen as a physical being, but they just lack that sort of intimate. They don't. He or she. I'm not even going to go down that road. I'm not entirely. I don't want to misgender somebody, but he, she, they, them. What? They kind of lack intimidation for me. They don't. I don't get any real sense of threat from them. They just kind of don't really have that imposing way that Doug Bradley had. And the other Cenobites really, really lack it as well. A lot. But apart from that, you know, I had a good time with it. As I say, I'm not a big fan of the Hellraiser franchise, so
yeah, same thoughts exactly. So I'm not a big we're not big Hellraiser fans, so
yeah.
Pretty much exactly what you said. You can insert and regurgitate from me and the same shit.
Yeah.
Okay, my next. No, I'm not sure about this. This film could be in your top 10. It's Fresh with it's the guy from He played Bucky in Captain America. It's the setup is basically a girl tries online dating numerous times to little success. She meets a guy in the grocery store. He seems like a good guy. They go on a few dates. He takes her back to her place, and then things go south. So I don't want to spoil it because it is a really solid film. So if you've not seen the film and you don't know the setup and the premise, I'll leave it at that. But I would definitely check out Fresh. I think it might be Hulu. Dan will tell Dan or Chris in the chat. Ben, they'll know.
I don't remember.
Somebody's streaming it anyway. But yeah, it's a really enjoyable, like dark I'd say it's a dark comedy. It's not an out and out horror. It's very much definitely, I would say, dark comedy. If you're sick fucks like us who consider it comedy, you know?
Exactly. I haven't. I didn't count, but I probably only saw like 25 releases from this year.
You probably seen more than I have.
Yeah, like I didn't see much. I caught up in like the end of October on like maybe like 5, 6, 7 ones that I did not catch. But in total, yeah, probably like maybe like 20, 25 the most that I've seen from this year. So my top 10 is pretty much just what I saw. Like I'm sure there might have been better ones out there that would make my list if I saw them.
Okay, I've just got 2 honorable mentions left. The second to last one is Resurrection. With
I want to see that.
Yeah, it's good. It's dark. It's weird.
That's on Shudder, right?
Yeah, it's Tim Roth. So
yeah, I've been looking to see it
because I know Lorne did a video about it. He loves it. I like the film. I'm not as like Lorne probably sees more going on beneath the surface than I do. It reminded me slightly of Men, you know, obviously from this year. Just a lot of it is kind of subjective. You know, you've got to try and there are elements you're thinking, is this real? Is this not real? Is she imagining things? Is she not imagining things? But Tim Roth's just like, yeah, he's like, gives a really, I mean, he's not in it much, but when he is, the scenes he's in, like he really is like a chilling character. Like he really, like, I mean, he chews the scenery. He does chew the scenery. He's like, but yeah, and when he first appears and like the dialogue, the back and forth between him and the female lead, you're like, what the fuck is going on? It's like, you know, it's like, but yeah, but as I don't want to spoil it because obviously if Alexy's not seen it, it's definitely worth checking out. It's one of those movies you can't really discuss too much because you need to go into it blind. But yeah, highly recommended. And my last honorable mention is this is a cheesy one. It's Who Invited Them. This might be a Shudder movie as well.
It is actually.
Yeah. Is this anybody's top 10? I wouldn't have thought so.
No,
not in my top 10. No.
Have you seen it, Alexy?
I have not seen it yet. I have to confess. No.
Yeah. So I won't spoil too much. But if you've seen The Invitation from 2016,
yes,
it's similar to that.
It's definitely got those. It's like set in the Hollywood Hills. Couple bought a brand new house in the Hollywood Hills, so it's you know, housewarming. A couple overstay the welcome. They don't even know who this couple are, and then they reveal themselves as next door neighbors. But as time goes on, they have a nightcap and then another nightcap, and they get more and more drunk, and the coke comes out. Yeah. So basically, they're not really who they say they are, and it kind of it all goes south from then on. But it's a fun little film.
I'll be right back, but I'm listening. I'm just muting my shit.
Okay, man. Okay. So Alexy, is any honorable mentions that I didn't mention that you want to talk about?
Yes, there are actually. I think Nope was the only overlap that we had there. So one of the first ones I'll mention is actually one that's fresh off my mind because I watched it just this morning. Got around to it. Is one that came out called Soft and Quiet. I don't know if that one's
yeah,
bells or...
that's in my top 10.
Okay, yeah, that
So,
was quite a surprise, and I'm glad that you've seen the movies. I mean, I still won't, for anyone who in the chat who hasn't seen it, I'll be vague about what the movie's about, but it's nice to know that like you kind of get where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it was an uncomfortable experience, but in the best sense of the word, because I mean, I think I even mentioned to JT in a direct message, like I've known people, I've known women like that. I have worked with them in the past, and it's one of those things where like you might not always catch them talking that way, but there's just like little hints here and there that maybe this person could be that. And then, as you can see, as soon as people feel safe, that's when everything tends to kind of come out.
Yeah.
And I mean, furthermore, just the way that it all was shot in real time, and it all escalated so absurdly but so plausibly at the same time. I just thought it was really well executed, brilliantly acted, like across the board, and very brave performances all around, to say the very least.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I will talk about it when we get, because it's in my top 10, obviously. I won't go into too much detail, obviously, because for anyone who hasn't seen the film, like I went into it completely blind. I will go. Well, when I get to that, I'll talk about it because it is just. But any more?
Yes. Let's see. The Black Phone, directed by Scott Derrickson, with Ethan Hawke in it.
Yeah, that's not even in my top 10. That film just.
It didn't do it for you, hey?
No, I think that's the most overrated film of the year for me. I just completely left me. I just didn't understand the love for it whatsoever. I thought it was just average at best. Not even a film that I consider like I say, an honorable mention. It was just so maybe a biggest disappointment. Like Halloween Ends. It's just I was like the whole the girl, the whole like supernatural element with the girl. I was like, this what's this? Like this doesn't make any. I know there's a supernatural, the whole phone business. I think it would have been better if there hadn't even been any supernatural elements of the film and just dealt with a situation with kidnapped kids. But I know it was the 70s, but the idea that this fella going around in a really, really ominous looking van, dressed up in a really, really ominous way, just grabbing kids off the street. No, it's the 70s, and no, we haven't got like the high tech, the DNA testing that we have now. But come on, that guy wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes doing what he's doing. I mean, it just wouldn't.
Probably not.
They caught Ted Bundy, and he looked like a normal guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I will say that like one thing that I did notice watching it was at one point when he loses his mask, he's really having a real sort of panic attack and a freak out because he doesn't want them seeing his face, right? But there is that one point early in the movie where he's stalking a kid and comes right up to them and even kidnaps them without a mask. I mean, he had his face painted up a little bit or something, but that was kind of a weird inconsistency. I mean, I still liked the movie on the whole. I mean, again, I didn't absolutely love it, but I thought it had some good merit. If nothing else, it had one jump scare in it that actually felt earned. I mean, like at one point, I think it's at the point where I think that when they're driving or biking across the road, and then the kids just kind of flare up out of nowhere. The other kids that the grabber took, and that actually got a jump out of me, and it wasn't just because it was an obnoxious noise. I thought that the build up to that was good, and also, I mean, I'm a bit of a sucker for anything that Ethan Hawke does, and I thought that he was good here too.
There's just little things that just like, I mean, like towards the beginning of the film where like the kid just gets beaten to near death, like by the other kid, and it's just like everyone just carries on like it's normal, and the kid's nearly died, and it's just like he just walks off, and then like, really? I mean, the kid's just I don't know. Maybe I don't know what was expecting, and I mean, the whole. I mean, it some people love the whole like grim, grey. I think it was set in Denver. It's just the whole thing had a grey tone to it. It's like I just prefer something with like a bit of a sunnier vibe, you know. If it just like the whole like aesthetic was just grey and brown and dull and drab, you know. It just felt so like, oh, this is not what I want to see.
Oh.
But it is what it is. So
yeah. I think it's just one of those ones that you kind of have to like you have to sort of like take it on the level of it being sort of like an urban fable or something like that. You know, I don't think it's totally meant to be grounded, but maybe that's a cop-out thing of me to say. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just the whole grey and it just reminded me of a British film. It's like you watch British films, it's just like so dull and dismal and drab and depressing. Like when I watch American films, I like a bit of escapism. I just like, I want to see something, you know, just a bit more. It can be horrific and grotesque, but just give me some blue skies at least. And it's just like JC's back.
There he is. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to smoke and get a drink, and my daughter's up, so because I'll be in it like a little bit, like just to check on. She's with her grandma.
JT,
someone mentioned Piggy and Dan in the chat.
Yeah, I've not seen
honorable mentions. Probably only 2. I really like Bloody Christmas. I think as annoying as the characters are in that, they're kind of just meant to be that way. And I know people like that. I grew up with people like that, like people just like, you know, always talking about like music and movies, and their opinion is the shit, and the overrated opinion is what they don't listen to, and cursing every 2 words. Like, I know those people. So like it was realistic, even though they were a little annoying. But I loved the main girl in that, Tori.
Yeah,
the character's name. Loved her.
That was kind of like my point about like modern movies with like annoying main characters who are like meant to be like the heroes. The male and female leads I couldn't stand either. I thought the male lead was gay at the beginning of the movie.
I thought that too, actually. And then
I got that impression too.
Yeah. Like, wait, what?
It's kind of like the dialogue or something that like they threw in.
He was being like he wasn't like playing like a straight guy. And then the whole sex scene where she's like fully clothed. Like, what the fuck is that all about? That was just fucking stupid. Oh my god.
I thought it was just a fun Christmas movie that I think is going to become a favorite for a lot of people to watch every Christmas for like horror movies from now on. Same with Better Watch Out. When that came out, that became kind of a yearly thing for some people, I know, and kind of like Silent Night, Deadly Night, and Black Christmas and stuff. Now, it's obviously nowhere near the quality of those movies, but it's just a fun Christmas slasher, really, like a throwback to the 80s. They had some good kills. I wish they'd linger on some of the kills more. Like, I feel like some of them were really quick.
Did you not like when I watched this synopsis for like Christmas Bloody Christmas though? I was hoping for like a Chopper Mal metallic robotic Bob, like Santa Claus just walking around like a really, really, and it was just a guy, just like a normal guy with laser eye. I was like, oh fucking hell.
Yeah, they didn't even try to make him look like a robot. Like it was just a human walking around. And then, but like it's such a schlocky film with the throwback to the 80s cheese and stuff. Like, it doesn't have to look like a robot for me. Like it's like when you look back at our favorite slashers from the 80s. None of that shit made sense, and like we look past it just because like either we grew up with them or we just love them and they have charm. And I think this movie has a lot of charm. So I don't know. It worked for me. Went in with 0 expectations as usual.
Okay, I think we've covered honorable mentions now. So basically, let's just before we go into the top 10.
Oh, I got another one.
Go on. Sorry.
There you go. Sissy.
I hated that fucking
Sissy.
film. Oh,
yeah.
Is this in your top 10?
No.
Is this in your top 10, Alexy?
It is, as a matter of fact.
Okay. I'll say it then.
Oh, yeah.
And someone mentioned in chat, Dan, I think, Piggy. I saw it. I did not care for it. I know it was based off a short film. I didn't see the short film. Didn't care to after I saw the movie. But the lead actress does a great job. I could say that. Her mom, the actress who plays her mom, did a really good job. This story just didn't do anything for me. Like the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes were pretty good. Most of it was just didn't do anything for me. So Piggy was not anywhere near my top of 2022.
So is there any films over the last 12 months which you just thought really were just utter shit? Worst the worst.
Jeepers Creepers Reborn. Yeah, pretty much
I definitely. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with Jeepers Creepers Reborn. That was horrendous. That was shockingly bad. I mean,
yeah, even the CGI it to be bad. It was so bad.
I mean, just the opening 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It looked like they filmed it as well. The thing about Love Book, the original Jeepers Creepers, it looks like it's filmed in middle of summer. It looks like it's scorching hot. Mm-hmm. Really, it just adds to the atmosphere. But the beginning of this film, it looks like it's filmed in October or something. It just looks it's so grey and dark, and the opening kill is just so lacking in any build up. The CGI went on the roof at the end of the movie. The CGI is just terrible. It's just
CGI all over the movie, man. There is so much green screen in this movie, more than the third one. When they had the scene where the friend stops and he goes to take a piss in the woods. That was CGI for the background for the woods. It's you couldn't shoot in the woods. That's the cheapest place to shoot. You could shoot in the woods all day long, and it, in the finished product, it's going to actually look like you're in the woods. Not let's do CGI and spend more money than shooting in the actual woods to make it look terrible and not like the woods. I don't get it. And there was CGI all over the movie like that. When the cops show up at the end, those cops are green screen in the back.
Yeah,
they're not there on the set. There's so much green screen and CGI and bad CGI throughout the movie, just like the third movie, so terribly made. It feels like a sci-fi movie. And they did the same shit with 3. When 3 came out, they released it in theaters for 1 weekend because they probably said all right, we know we have this terrible movie. How are we going to make our money back? And they said, let's just do a special 1 weekend showing, and then we'll make as much money back as we can. And that's what they did with this one too. Then they opened it up for another weekend after that. Guaranteed it'll be on Sci-Fi in 2023. Guaranteed. With 3, maybe a whole marathon of all the movies, but that's how it feels, man. A bad sci-fi movie. And for a reboot of a classic of Jeepers Creepers, that's a shame. Wasteland, I did not see.
Yeah, I've not seen it, so I'll have to check that one out.
Sure.
Okay, so I think we covered all bases so far. So let's just get into the top 10. We've been going an hour and 10 minutes. Maybe we should get into the top 10.
Yes, let's.
Okay, so we'll start. I'll give my number 10, then Alexy, then UJT, and then we'll move back to me for 9. So my number 10 movie of 2022 is Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
I actually still haven't seen that.
Yeah. I thought I was going to hate it looking at the trailers. A24 usually doesn't fail me, but the characters looked annoying as hell. You had that Pete Davidson, who I hate. He's in it. So I was I didn't have any expectations for this, but I actually really enjoyed it. The unlikable characters, it kind of makes sense the way the movie plays out. When not to go into because this is definitely a movie that you can't really reveal too much. But
yeah, and I haven't seen it.
The way it does play out, their personalities really play into how the story progresses. These are not nice people. They're not evil, but they're typical millennial douchebags. Obsessed with the phones and taking selfies, and so how things progress. It's kind of how you'd imagine things progressing with these type of people. But way better than I was expecting. So yeah, I actually really enjoyed it. So Alexy, number 10.
Thanks. I'm putting that one on my list now too, so thank you for that. So number 10 for me is Ty West's X.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's already been a lot said about the movie, so I don't feel like I need to talk about it at great length. But I mean, between that and Pearl, and we're definitely going to be talking about that one too. Ty West has had a fantastic year, and I don't even quite know where to start. I mean, from both the perspective of craftsmanship and storytelling, like this is a really big step forward for him as a filmmaker. I've always liked his style, but I felt like there was something here to kind of like justify that deliberate pace that he has a bit more, because I know that some people complain that his movies can move a bit too slow. And in the case of some of his past movies, I can see that argument, but here pretty much every frame felt like it was adding something or enriching like the experience in some way. And I particularly liked the fact that it kind of like in Christmas, Bloody Christmas, the way that Joe Bagos clearly likes these characters, and that's why I think you become engaged with them instead of them just being off-putting. Is they're written with affection, and he treats the characters working in the porn industry in this movie, because it sounds like it could be a joke. It's like Friday the 13th meets Boogie Nights or something, but he's actually treating these characters with some sort of respect, and he allows them to be intelligent, witty, funny. I mean, sometimes they have extended moments where you almost forget that that's what they're doing for a living. But the point is that it's willing to allow them to be human, Yeah,
it's in my top 2. So
yeah.
Same with Pearl. I mean, I don't think that was a spoiler for anybody, because I've been saying it for months. And I could see what Lorne's saying too, because I do love Ty West in like everything he's done, and he does have a very deliberate slow pace. He loves that slow burn. Like House of the Devil is that way. The Innkeepers is that way, and like pretty much all this stuff. But like, I love House of the Devil. I adore the Innkeepers. Like, and a lot of people don't care for that movie too, and it rests a lot on the characters in that movie. I'm not going to get into the Innkeepers, so that'll be a whole thing. But then, just everything he's done, the Sacrament, then just I think these are this is what he was leading up to, like this trilogy, like his whole career. Because like, I don't consider this a slasher movie either. Like, it was kind of like advertised as a slasher movie. It has slasher elements in it, but there's so much more to this movie. Like, just the story alone. Like, when's the last time we like said the story to our favorite slasher movies? It's fucking phenomenal. Like, it's not like most of them are just like you were saying, Alexy, like Friday the 13th type like scenarios and stuff. But this movie has so much good writing and story to it, and just everything about it. It's shot excellently. It's every technical aspect about it it looks amazing to look at. It's just an amazing film, and I can't wait for Maxine.
Yeah, me neither.
So, what's your number 10 then, GT?
My number 10. I actually cheated. I have only a top 9.
Okay.
I couldn't think of one to throw in the 10th, so
we'll go round back to me then for my number 9. My number 9 is Scream 5.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
still haven't seen it.
Okay. So we'll Scream 6 out soon. You better get your skates on, because they're pushing number 6 out within 12 months, which is arguably not a great idea. But okay. So Scream, the franchise. A lot of people. I know you hate it, GT. I know.
Like, I don't hate it. Hate is a strong word. Okay. I do not like it at all.
Okay. Well, I mean, like Scream.
Yeah, I figured you would say that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Scream 1 is like one of the greatest slasher movies of all time. I think it's one of the most influential films of all time in terms of like what it influenced, in terms of like kickstarting the slasher genre, kickstarting the horror genre again, because it was in a bad place in '96. A lot of directors owe a lot of what Wes Craven did with Scream. I love Scream 2 as well. Yeah, 3 was dog shit. 4 was it was bloody. I'll give it that. It was probably the bloodiest entry of the lot. 5, coming back to You know, I mean, I can't argue, I can't be down on a movie that set in Woodsboro with a likable cast, with decent kills. And okay, it has got the same issue with the two killers, and one's like 5'2" and one's like 6'3", with about a 6 stone weight difference.
Always.
Yeah, I understand, but it's always been the way with the Scream franchise. There's always been a massive disparity between the two killers. I get that. It's just part of its charm, you know. And for me, it's that familiarity I love about the franchise. And for me, it wasn't a home run, but it was hell of a lot better than 3, and I liked it more than 4. So for that reason alone, it sneaks into my top 10.
All right, so that's interesting. I know that you're not a huge Scream fan. I guess you were a bigger Scream fan than I thought you were. But God, I don't like Scream. Like, just the first movie, it has some great stuff in it. Like, it has the whole Drew Barrymore opening, which is good. Like, it's an iconic scene at this point. The ghost face look just never did it for me. It looks stupid. I mean, like it just looks like a stupid Halloween costume. People put it on, like, you see the posts all the time, like favorite slasher villain, Freddy, Michael, Jason, and Ghostface. It's like he's not a horror villain. It's like 18 different people at this point. Like, it's always 2 different people in every movie playing him. So he's not an iconic slasher villain. Like, it's an iconic slasher costume. I'll give it that. But it's not an iconic slasher villain. It's always a different person. And just the fact that this woman, that's Sydney, has been around now, like, coming up on 6 murder sprees, all linked to her.
Over 25 years.
It is insane. Like,
she's like Angela Lansbury. She's like Murder She Wrote. Everywhere she pops up, people get killed.
Yeah, exactly. Or she gets through it and, like, all right, I can live a normal life, and then just, like, she goes somewhere else, and then it just starts all over again. Like, it's like she hits the lottery, like every entry of, like, the statistical odds that I'm going to get into another murder spree and try to be killed by 2 other random people, or that have vague connections to her mother that started the whole series. It's just so ludicrous to me. And it's not even a slasher film. Like, there's no gore, there's no good kills. Like, it's just watered down Dawson's Creek feeling, and it makes sense because Kevin Williamson wrote and created Dawson's Creek. That's why we get I Know What You Did Last Summer, and all the movies that came after Scream that are just like the same thing, like watered down slasher movies, Urban Legend, like all of those that focused more on the casting and having pretty faces and stuff than
I love Urban Legend. What are you talking about? Yeah,
Urban Legend is probably the better one out of them, but it's still not that great. But it's that and Valentine.
I'm going to have to mute JT for a second. Yeah, Urban Legend is a fucking classic movie. Okay, pretty cat. Yeah, okay. Urban Legend is a classic. Jared Leto is as pretty as they come. The entire cast is like, you know, fucking Abercrombie and Fitch models. That's what we want to see in a slasher movie. GT, come on. Okay, you can talk again now.
Not like that though. Like in the 80s, they nailed it. After Scream, it just went crazy. I did, Ben. I said a bad word. And I said it's my favorite out of all those post Screams. Yeah, exactly, Lorne. That's what I'm saying. That's how they feel to me.
Okay, let's move on to Alexy, your number 9 movie for the year.
Number 9, and I'm also just going to say for anyone who's wondering that it's once we get to more on the top 5, that's when things are getting really serious. The rest of these are all running pretty even in my mind. But anyway, number 9 was Joseph and Vanessa Winter with Deadstream. I mean, yeah, that movie was just a total blast. One of the best found footage movies I've ever seen. Just period. Easily, like, probably the single most fun I've ever had watching a found footage movie that I can think of. And like, my God, like that guy Joseph Winder plays the guy. I could listen to this guy like just scream and squirm and groan and have hissy fits and piss his pants like on a 24-hour live stream. Like his comic timing is just it's priceless. Like I'm almost lost for words. Like the movie's just the whole package. There's not a thing about it I didn't like.
Yeah,
such a good time.
I absolutely love Deadstream, and it's high up on my list. I'm trying to get. I think I'm trying to get you the directors on, Joe and Vanessa Winter, on the channel sometime. I talked to him. He said that their PR tour and everything is kind of busy, and they have 2 scripts that they're working on, which is awesome. Right. So I'm so glad to hear that. But he said maybe after the holidays and things slow down, he might hop on. So I'd love to get them on the channel. But after VHS 99 with their segment and that, and Deadstream, like together, like they're killing it. Like absolutely. Like it's like Evil Dead 2 found footage style.
Exactly.
Like that's how I describe it to people. And they did such an amazing job of just balancing the comedy and the horror just perfectly, like through the whole movie. And that's so hard to do in like a horror comedy like that, to find that equilibrium where the horror and the comedy just stick and just work perfectly together. And they really do in that movie. It's such a fun time. It's the best found footage movie of the year, if not like, for the past 5 years or more. Like
I hated
absolutely love it.
I hated it. I fucking hated it.
Are you having us on here, Mike, or is
no?
Is
I hated it.
Oh,
I hate everything about it.
Yeah.
I can't be. I mean, it was almost like he
Was
played
the character?
The role too. Well, the character was just the film lives or dies on him as a character, because he is front and center for like the whole 90 minutes. And if you don't like him, then the film just falls flat. And he is 100%. Like he does a job. He does his job well. He is just unlikable. I mean, you might like it. For me,
love him.
Like watch, because he's very, very relatable as an unlikable YouTuber who's like really, really, really annoying. And he plays the role so well that I just felt like I was watching a YouTube live stream with somebody who was just, it's like watching a Logan Paul video or something, people you just detest and you want to see get killed. And I mean, the film was just, it was jump scare after jump scare after jump scare after jump scare. There was just so many jump scares. It just got to the point where I was just tired. Like, I'm thinking, how many more jump scares is there going to be in this movie? I was like, I'm done. I'm just done. I mean, I want a movie I don't think this is going to be anybody's top 10. Dashcam.
No. I was going to just say about Dashcam that it reminds me of Dashcam, except I couldn't stand the character in that.
So
I don't like Dashcam at all.
If there was going to be one character more annoying than the guy in this film, it's the female lead in Dashcam, who was just insufferable. And I hated Dashcam, and I hated this film. So, yeah, more power to you. If you love it, you love it. I wasn't for me at all. It seems to be a really popular. A lot of people love it. I'm in the minority. I know that, because most people seem to love it.
Yeah, it's been getting a lot of praise since it came out.
Even Lorne likes it. Lorne likes it. Jesus Christ! I thought Lorne might be on my side. Even Lorne's likes it. Christ! So I'm really in the minority. He says it's a rip-off of Estate, but since no one saw that one because it's not in English, I guess that's fine. I couldn't make it past 10 minutes of Dash. Yeah, well, at least he doesn't like Dashcam, because Dashcam was awful. Dashcam is 50-50. I loved Host, which is the same director. The guy who did Dashcam did Host. Host is fucking incredible.
Oh, Host was awesome.
It's so good. It's so good. It's like it's another of those COVID, found footage movies, but it's brilliant, But Dashcam is just annoying.
Jeez.
Are we up to JT? Are we up to your number 9? Are we?
Yes. Now my same kind of with 9 through 6. I don't think they're amazing films or anything like that. Just happened to make the list of the films that I've seen this year, which I'm sure if I saw some other ones they would replace these. But VHS 99 is my number 9. I thought it was a very fun time. I do like found footage a decent amount, so there's a decent amount of found footage on my list. And surprisingly, because this is like a good year for the genre, actually. But I didn't love all the segments. There was one in it that was just absolutely bonkers. Has everyone seen VHS 99?
Yeah. I like the kids game show.
Yeah, that was the one I was just going to say.
That was good.
Yeah, that was a standout, I think, for me.
Yeah, that was the low point for me. It was too
I like
weird. It's all right. It's not as good as the others for me. Like the one at the beginning too. It has great effects in it. Like when they go to that place where the band was killed, and like, this other band, and then like the bodies of the dead band like rip their skin off and then like wear it and they play a gig. Like it takes a while to get going. But like
long ones to get going,
but the payoff is great. I think like the last few minutes of it. So it's not the best one. The second one with what the hell's his name? He directed 47 Meters Down, and the second one with the coffin, like with the sorority girl who has to like get into the coffin and stuff. I loved that.
I love that one too.
Love that whole segment. That was so well done. Like I can't think of the director's name for some reason, but he is very good at making like claustrophobic feeling like movies, like with 47 Meters Down, like how they're stuck down underwater all that time. Like with her, the way that everything was shot in the coffin, and just it makes you feel like you're in there with her. Like I loved that whole segment. The third one was that weird kid show one, which I thought was going to go in a different direction, and if it did, I would have probably liked it more. But it was just so weird and out there. And Flying Lotus directed that. I know his music career. I don't know anything else he's done film-wise. So I'd say stick to music. And what was the fourth one? Oh, the kids that were peeping on the neighbor, and then she turned into Medusa.
Yeah.
Again, took a while to get going, and I can't stand the characters. Like speaking of what you said earlier, Mike, with just the douchebags in movies and stuff. VHS series just has it's like a trademark now of just having annoying asshole, terrible people like in so many skits. And I just couldn't listen to these kids' dialogue, like of just like spying on their sexy neighbor, their new neighbor. But when she turned into Medusa, I love that. Like, when's the last time we saw Medusa in a horror movie? I can't think of one. There's one called Medusa. I've never seen it. But besides that, like outside of like what type of movie? Like not Gladiator, but like those type of period pieces that take place.
Yeah,
like
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Like like that, like you might see her in that. That's it. Like I would love to see an actual like movie with Medusa in it, like done right, because the effects looked great on her. With the snake and everything looked really, really good. And then the last
when that was revealed, that was good. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the last segment from the Winters was just excellent. Like I love that whole segment, hell and back. And the girl who played Mabel, she did an amazing job. I know Joseph was directing most of it. Like we hear him because he's the friend, but he's the one the camera's going off of. I'm sure it's just because he wanted to direct, all those scenes and stuff. But funny stuff throughout, just like in Deadstream, and just the way that hell looks and stuff. It looks so good. Like the set design, the design of the sets and stuff that they used. I think they filmed in like some type of canyon or something, actually. So they shot like on location in the canyon that looked like that. And just like the shots of like the big, like huge demon, like devil type thing, like in the background, that looked awesome. A lot of the creature effects looked awesome. It's all practical effects mostly, look awesome. Like I absolutely love the last segment. So VHS 99, that was a fun one for me. I haven't liked a VHS this much since the second movie.
VHS 99 kind of merges into 94 for me, because they kind of came out like a year apart, so I kind of like forget which is which. But I had 99 wasn't. I had issues with some of the segments, but it's a film that kind of completely passed me by. But okay, so on to number.
Yeah, then she was the girl in who played Mabel in VHS in the last segment was the girl in Deadstream. She does great in both.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So on to my number 8, and that is Watcher from Micah Monroe.
Oh, I saw that one. Yeah.
Oh, I did not see that one, but it was Micah Monroe. I got to see that.
Yeah. It's set in Romania, I think. I think it's Bucharest. It's kind of like a more modern take on. I think is it Someone's Watching Me? What's the John Carpenter movie from the late 70s? I think it's a TV movie. And there was another very similar film from a few years later. I think set in Miami in 2 opposite apartment blocks. But it's one of them. It's kind of a play on, American in a foreign country with a husband and guy, an apartment across the way. She constantly sees him staring out. She convinces herself that he's a local serial killer. And then it's a kind of case of, is he, isn't he? Is it all in her mind? Is he a creep? And more than that, is he actually a serial killer? So it kind of builds and builds and builds, but you never quite, until the final scenes play out, you're never quite sure like how it's going to end up. Is it just their imagination, or is this guy just a complete nut job? But yeah, atmospheric. Micah Monroe is just like great as always. Always loved, ever since like The Guest and It Follows. Loved everything she's done.
I love The Guest so much.
But I love The Guest too.
Guest is a fucking phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is definitely a must watch. Yeah.
I gotta check it out.
It's definitely a slow burn. It doesn't rush things. It just plays out. But I mean, there are a couple of really, really good. There's a great scene in the supermarket. Well, it starts off in a cinema, and then I don't want to really go spoil things, but it then moves into this, and it's just the guy who plays the Watcher, so to speak. He's like perfectly cast as like this creepy looking dude, who could just be like a sad, lonely little man, but also could be a stone cold killer. The fact that the casting for the role is just a really unassuming guy. It's not some like big hulking 6'4" muscle bound psychopath. It's just like this skinny little 5'8" guy who just disappears into the background.
Yeah.
But they're the sort of characters who you always have to look out for. So yeah, really, really well made film. Really, really entertaining. Just a really, really well made film, and like Micah Monroe is just like,
I love her.
She's like a modern day screen queen. She's just fantastic.
Oh yeah, she is great in everything I've seen her in.
Yeah, I think I only remember for some reason the ending leaving me wanting a little bit more, but up until then, like the way that the tension was sustained throughout the movie, I really appreciated. And like you said, Mike, very good casting with with the guy that she's concerned about, like the Watcher. There, like it's one of those things where, like, I mean, without spoiling it for anyone who hasn't seen it, I'll just say that like he's one of those people where it's like, regardless of whether you're getting the conclusion that you're suspecting of that character, it's still convincing either way. It's like, okay, sure, he's just a normal guy, or oh yeah, that guy could be a serial killer totally. But you just take one look at him, even as like a still shot, you would buy him as either one. So very very careful and very I think on point casting there. Yeah,
I gotta check it out.
Mm-hmm.
So Alexy, you're number 8 then.
Well, actually, it's funny enough. My number 8 answers a question that I think a guy named Daniel just posed in the chat. And yes, I did see Saloon, Daniel, and it is on my list because it's my number 8. It's on Shudder. It was directed by Jean-Luc Herbelou, and I apologize if I'm butchering that. French African horror film. It starts off. It's interesting as a thriller with these 3 guys in I want to say it's called Guinea-Bissau. Again, if I'm butchering that, I apologize, but it's a small country in I think in I want to say in West Africa on the Atlantic coast. I think, don't quote me on that, but I think that's where about that is for those of you who need a point of reference. But anyways, there are 3 mercenaries that, for reasons I won't spoil, have to take refuge on an island that is haunted in ways both good and bad by a supernatural presence. And it started off, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I could call it a classic tangential story, but I mean, I did absolutely love the movie. It starts off feeling like it's going to be one kind of movie. Like it started off feeling like it was going to be like someone like an international director's attempt on like a Joe Carnahan or like Tarantino sort of a film, but it develops into something that is a little more subtle than that and a little more ambitious. And also it feels like a story that you could only tell in this particular part of the world. Like, you know, you think about all the movies that you see where this could take place anywhere, but this is the kind of story that could only be set and told as it is in the movie. And I like that. I like it when you get to go somewhere that feels completely foreign, and when it's a movie that's this satisfying, so much the better.
Yeah, I know Dan, I know Lorne's seen that film as well. Yeah, definitely. Where did you see that, Alexy?
It's on Shudder, as far as I know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of these so like more obscure films, they don't really get front and center attention. It's always been like a bugbear of mine with like streaming services. Like they don't push some of the more obscure stuff. It's the search engines on the Shudder and Netflix. So the search engines are so bad that, like, I'm not saying, like, obviously if I put in Saloon or Salam, however you call it, it would come up, but it's like they don't kind of like YouTube is a website with like 8 billion videos, yet it seems to know what I want to see. Yet when I log into Shudder, it seems to have no idea what I want to watch, even though I've got a search history or watch history. You know, it's so strange. It's like they need to get the guys who run YouTube running some of these streaming services, because it does. I think Netflix is even worse in some respects, where I've literally logged into that. I've logged into Netflix. I've been watching a show, and I'm like 6 episodes in. I log in, and like, where is it? I've got to scroll. I mean, okay, it's first world problems. I understand that, but it's like, where the fucking hell is the show? Why am I having to scroll down and down and down to find the only show I've been watching on Netflix? Why isn't it just there when I log on? It's just like, but you know, as I say, streaming services are they have issues with the search engines. I've found anyway, but
I
you know,
agree.
why, especially YouTube is we're spoiled with YouTube, because YouTube is just, it just runs so well, you know.
Yeah.
So where are we up to, JT? We're up to your number 8, I think.
Yeah.
My number 8 was Incantation from earlier this year on Netflix. It was a Did anyone see that? It was a Taiwanese.
I've not seen it. No, I've not seen it.
No, it's on my list. I haven't seen it. No, not yet.
Really enjoyed it. Like, it was a unique premise. It's basically this woman and her kid, and she's, I don't want to give away too much because there's a lot of like twists in this, but basically it revolves around like a curse. There's a lot of like the Ring influences in there, like stuff like that, but it's handled very differently. And there's some like twists and turns throughout the story that you don't see coming. And it's not a lot of like, it's not really any shake cam or any of the like bad shit that we see in found footage movies. It's shot very well. It's a very good looking movie. And ever since it came out, like, I think like within a few months, it became the top selling horror movie in Taiwan's history. Now I don't know other Taiwan horror movies, but I don't know how big they are over there, but that's pretty interesting in itself that so quickly it became that big of a seller over there and a big hit.
Okay. My number 7 is Moloch, or Moloch. I I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's a
like
Moloch. It's a Dutch. I think it's Dutch. It's a Dutch movie. It's on Shudder. It's got Wicker Man. I know Lorne loves the film. It's very much like a what you would call a Dutch folktale in terms of like, you know, the whole premise and the setup. And I don't know whether it's based on real, you know, a real story from like ancient Dutch times. I have no idea. But it is. It kind of mixes it's like semi like Dutch language, semi English language. So it's kind of like part subtitles, part English. So it's kind of I've lost my train of thought. Like my headphones are playing up slightly. I don't know what's happened since I've I don't know if it's my headphones or whether it's one of you guys coming through. Like it's just sounds a bit.
Pizzo's in the chat.
Yeah, I'm just trying to. Piz, I was in the chat. What's up, Piz? Yeah, my headphones are just kind of playing up a little bit. Let me just.
Let me just leave the stream. Yeah, I gotta check out some of these movies from that I missed from this year for sure.
Me too.
I think that's better. I think that's sorted it. Okay, yeah, yeah. So Moloch, yeah. So Moloch, yeah. I think I've sorted it now. Yeah, Moloch is kind of like an it's like a Dutch urban legend dating back to like, you know, like the 1800s or whatnot. It's very Wicker Man-esque. Again, it's one of those movies that you can't really go into too much detail without spoiling it. So if you've not seen the film, I would highly recommend it. But I don't really want it, because the more you describe, the more it's just it's best to go in blind. But yeah, it is very much like Lord says, it is a folk horror movie. Very well acted, likable cast. I mean, Lorne says it's better than The Wicker Man, which I would say that's fighting talk. I wouldn't put it on that pedestal. It's certainly better than the Nicolas Cage Wicker Man, but a lot of things are. But yeah, I don't really want to go into too much detail, because like I say, if you've not seen the film, that's like, again, it's one of them. So if you've not seen the film, I'd just rather just like hold back and just give a basic premise and let you go into it completely blind, because
from Lauren's comment and your talk about it, I will be watching it very soon.
Yeah, I remember enjoying it a lot, actually. I mean, it wouldn't crack my top 10 or anything, and like you said, Mike, I don't think it's on the same sort of level as The Wicker Man, the original Wicker Man. But that said, I mean, yeah, it's a very solid movie, and probably one that not a lot of people are going to be talking about, unfortunately, just because it's been such a crowded year for horror. That's one that could get overlooked, but I think it's worth going out of your way to see. So, yeah, cool to see it in your top 10 there.
So, Alexy, you're number 7.
Okay. Is Barbarian.
Okay.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I know, you know, we're kind of getting into mixed territory here, but because I mean, as I think you mentioned, JT, a lot of it is just sort of microwaved Castle Freak is what it is. But if every microwave was as good as this one, I would eat from it all the time. Put it that way. I just thought the way it was constructed was very surprising, and it's one of those things like with that movie The Watcher that Mike brought up, that you've got people who are perfectly cast to be read more than one way. Like Bill Skarsgård has such a great ambiguity in those early scenes that, you know, more than once when you think you've got it figured, and then the movie goes a different direction that still does make sense. And for that matter, I thought it was one of the better performances I've seen from Justin Long, like in a while, actually. And Justin Long is not even like necessarily one of my favorite actors, but
I agree with that.
But he filled this role perfectly. And again, it's a hard movie to talk about without spoilers, so I'm gonna stay vague, except to say that I thought it did a very masterful job of like baiting you with one thing, and even when it gives you the bait, just being vague enough just to keep you going, and then switching it in a way that did feel like a slap across the face, but one that was earned. So yeah, overall, I love the execution of the movie.
JT, have you seen Barbarian?
Yeah. I did.
Lex, you can spoil away, man, because everybody in the chat's seen the film anyway. So if you just go
that's good to know.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I just, like I said, just the presence of it reminded me a lot of Castleford, which isn't a bad thing by any means. I love Castleford, so I definitely enjoyed it. And Justin Long, I like him in like these type of roles. Like, he doesn't have a lot of range as an actor, obviously, but when like he can kill it in these particular types of characters and stuff that he portrays. And I think it was the best performance from him I've seen in a while.
Well, Barbarian's going to be in my top 7, so we'll go into spoilers in a minute. JT, what's your number 7?
Let's see, what is my number 7? Orphan First Kill.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. I love the first Orphan. Like, ever since it first came out, I adore that movie. And just something about in the first movie, like with just Peter Sarsgaard and Vera Farmiga, which we've talked about Alexy, she's fucking amazing in everything.
Yeah.
So
she's a gem.
In the first movie, and Isabel Fuhrman as a kid, and just the whole role that she had to play, like with the twist in the end. This movie I had a lot of concerns for. Like, the two biggest ones was William Brent Bell's was directing it, and that was who brought us The Boy and Brahms' The Boy too. So I'm very weary about this movie. And two, because of her age. Like, as Isabel Fuhrman's like 25, she was like 23 or something when they were filming it. So I was worried that it was going to look very awkward, but they handled both like very well. Like, and not at any point during the movie did it take me out of the movie. And like, her looks, like, she looked like Esther, like she looked like a kid. Like, they digitally de-aged her. They had like trick camera work, and they used kid actors for certain shots, but they did an amazing job, like hiding her age and making her look like a kid again. So it never at any point in the movie did I say, she looks so like weird here. She looks so old. Like, you can tell how much older she is. And I think the twist halfway through that movie is fucking phenomenal too. Like, I think it's a great direction that I did not see coming. And Julia Stiles kills it in that movie too. Like, I am very mixed with her.
Yeah, like, she's a bitch in that film.
Yeah. She's very mixed with me with what her performance is. Like, I've seen stuff that she was dreadful in, and I've seen stuff that she's great in. And this was one that she was great in.
I like the way they just like kind of like hammed it up with, she's so over the top, in the film, like, it's, if anybody's seen the it's a BBC show, it's sold in the UK, called Killing Eve, so it may not translate over, but it's the way she plays the role is very similar to like the role in this BBC TV show, where it's a playing it with like the Russian accent, even though she's not really Russian, and just completely hams it up, and it's completely over the top, but in a likable way. She's so, it's hard to dislike her as a character because she's so like crazy and fucked up, and it's almost it's kind of like done for laughs. Some of the kills and stuff. It's hard to like dislike her as a character in the way that you're rooting for her towards the end. Over, like, nobody's rooting for Julia Stiles. She's just like, so I actually think it's a big improvement on the first film. It didn't make my top 10, but it's a film I went into. It's another one of those movies where it's a sequel I don't think anybody knew they needed, but it actually turned out to be a really, really good sequel. But nobody was really asking for it. But we got a really, really solid film.
Yeah, I like the first one still much better, but I think they did an excellent job. like just making this prequel here. And like I said, I had a lot of worries for this movie, and they were all alleviated watching it. And I think they did a great job with another twist here. And yeah, you do want Esther to win here. Like in the end, like you are rooting for Esther. I'm not rooting for Julia Stiles. She's fucking insane. Like so is Esther. But it's like we have a whole previous movie that like we get attached to the character. We know the character. And just Julia Stiles, she is way over the top. But I think that was the kind of the point with it, like to make her that over the top. So you would like root for Esther. Because I don't know many people that were rooting for Stiles' his character in that.
Okay, to number 6. My number 6 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I went into this with zero expectations. I thought this is going to be, especially with the trailer, I just thought this is going to be woke as hell. I just seen these bunch of like Gen X millennial types moving into like a small town and just being like utter douchebags. And it kind of twisted it. So these woke Gen X millennial types just get fucking destroyed. Leatherface just goes to town on them. The whole scene with, the guy going, "You're getting cancelled." I love that. You're getting cancelled. No, I'm fucking not, mate. You're getting a chainsaw through your fucking throat. Love that. Okay, there's issues with the plotting. Like, why did a bunch of hipster types move 40 miles from the nearest city to start up a new town to gentrify? You don't gentrify a town in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of like a process that starts from the inner cities and moves outwards. You don't just go to the middle of nowhere and try and gentrify. It's like there's a scene where she goes to the black guy. She goes, "Oh, this will be perfect for your comic book store." Like, who the fuck's? I mean, okay, I love the film, but I am criticizing it a little bit. But who the fuck's going to a comic book store 40 miles from the nearest fucking city? Like, who's going? Where's the transport links? Where's the buses? Where's the trains? It's like
comic books.
The whole thing makes zero sense, but we get an awesome Leatherface who's just a badass. The kills are fucking. The final kill is just so. That is on point.
I like that moment too. I enjoyed that.
It's a perfect mishmash of like old school Texas sort of like badass kills, like with a hailing back to the 70s, but with a modern take. So you've got like the self-controlling car at the end where it's driving away and she's not even in control, and she can't even control the car, and she's just watching a sister get a head chopped off. It's just it's a contrast between like the old and the new, and I think that's kind of like what it's meant to symbolize. It's old meets new. It's hipster versus old school Texas. With the old school mechanic who's got no time for these kids, and he's a gun loving type, and they're just like woke as hell, aren't they? It's. So when the trailer dropped, I was like, "Oh my god, no, please, not a woke chainsaw movie!" But they kind of just subverted it, and I loved it. I thought.
Yeah, I should rewatch it. I fell asleep, admittedly, like halfway through, but from what I was watching, I did not enjoy it at all. But I'm not a big Texas Chainsaw fan. Like, I love 2; it's my favorite in the franchise. The first one's a classic, obviously, and the third one with Ken Foree has some stuff in it that I enjoy. Besides that, I think the remake is like out of all the major slasher franchises, it's the best remake by far. Like, out of Friday the 13th remake, Nightmare on Elm Street, Child's Play, like all of those, Texas Chainsaw 3 is excellent. But besides that, it's not really my franchise. Like, I don't care for any of the ones after that. I'll rewatch it though, because it is a slasher movie after all, and I love them.
Yeah, it has its flaws, but I thought it was. I had a good time with it on the whole. It's not one that I'll rewatch anytime soon, but at the same time, I was perfectly fine to sit with that movie for 90 minutes. I mean, it's not like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is like a complete masterpiece either when you come right down to it, right? So.
Yeah, for me, it's not like one of those masterpiece perfect films.
So Alexy, what's your number 6, man?
Number 6 is Glorious on Shudder. That was one with let's see, Rebecca McKendry directed it, and Ryan Quanten is in it. It's also got this is just the premise. I won't, again, like a lot of these movies, it's the one that I wouldn't want to spoil too much of for anyone. But J.K. Simmons plays a cosmic entity that he can only talk to through the glory hole in a bathroom, hence the title. And how this particular guy winds up in this washroom talking to this particular entity, again, I will leave for viewers to discover themselves, because I knew basically nothing about this movie before I put it on. Just I saw that, you know, it had at least one actor that I liked and seemed to be getting decent reviews, and I ended up really enjoying it a lot, especially because very often with a lot of cosmic horror, I think that filmmakers get so preoccupied with the visual aspect of that genre, and rightfully so. It's an important part of it, but they sometimes forget to have like a sense of sometimes wit or playfulness to go along with that. And while this movie does, you know, have serious moments at all the right points, it was nice to see something in the cosmic horror genre that was willing to give itself a bit of a kick in the pants too, because you don't get a lot of that. And J.K. Simmons is you would think that you would know what to expect from that guy more or less at this point, but he's a pretty versatile performer, and the way that he gives this character so much presence just with his voice, and it is great. It's not like he's just like rehashing Fletcher from Whiplash or Jonah Jameson from Spider-Man. It's hard to describe, but he's like the friendliest Hal that you could ever get. You know, but I'll leave it at that. But highly recommended.
Okay, I've not seen that, so
I gotta check it out.
Yeah.
JT, your number 6.
My number 6, and then after this gets into like the real, like my favorites of this year. But everyone knows I've been promoting this film since I saw it, and it's the found footage movie Chest from this year.
Okay, yeah.
It's on Tubi now officially, and like I said, for like 9 through 6, these aren't amazing films by any means. They just have a lot of charm to them, and this was obviously, it's an amateur first film, and it's very low budget. But what he does with the story and everything and the characters in it, they're very likable. They're very relatable. And the story based off of an urban legend that the director used to hear from his uncle as a kid, and he wrote that into this story. And it's about this mysterious chest that these hunters found in a cave, and they didn't have any, it was all chained up, so they didn't have anything to cut the chains. They went back to get tools, came back, and they never found it again. So it became like this urban legend and myth in the town that it's set in. And it's just handled very well, and it has a lot of love in the film. Like, you can see how much love and devotion was put into the movie. So if you can look past the budgetary things, like, it's definitely one of my favorite found footage movies of the year. And it is now officially on Tubi after months of trying to get it released.
Yeah, I still need to check that one out. I'll definitely have to check that out. Number 5, my number 5 is X. So, and obviously, I know we spoke about it earlier on, so I won't add too much more to it. I mean, I much prefer this to Pearl. Pearl was what I think I mentioned it as an honourable mention, Pearl, but for me, X is just a superior film in every way. For me, Pearl, I didn't have any sympathy for like Pearl as a young woman, as opposed to what I do as an older woman. She's far more of a sympathetic character, and I like the build up. I mean, there are certain scenes in X which are just like so, you know, you don't need to have. There are gory scenes, but the scenes which, for me, are just tension building and just like really, really edge of your seat stuff, which is kind of far more chilling. Obviously, it's the alligator scene where she's just swimming and the alligator's moving slowly behind. And it's like, the great thing about that scene is she never even knows that she's getting stalked. So she gets out and walks off, and the whole scene plays out, and she's completely oblivious to it. And obviously, the scene in the barn where the upright nail, and he's walking towards it barefoot. Like things like that get to me. I can deal with heads getting chopped off, people getting sawed in two. That doesn't bother me in the slightest. But something like an exposed nail and somebody's barefoot walking towards it, and the anticipation of it, I hate that. Oh, it's just I can't bear it.
Where with nails horror movies, like
there's a movie. Yeah, there's an old British movie that Lorne we watched on Lorne's channel called See No Evil with Mia Farrow, where she's blind and she's walking around the kitchen floor and there's broken glass, and you're just waiting for it to stand on the glass. It doesn't happen, but it's that anticipation that she's going to stand on broken glass, and it's not. That for me is far more terrifying than watching Art the Clown rip somebody's arm off and pour acid into the wound. That to me is just That to me is just like funny. It's not like it doesn't build any tension at all. So yeah, I mean, yeah, X, loved X, likable characters, likable antagonists as well as protagonists, which I didn't get from Pearl. Yeah, I mean, and obviously, Alexy, you went into detail about the film before, so I won't say any more about it. So, Alexy, you're number 5.
Number 5 for me is Sissy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen this.
Yeah, I thought that was really another one that caught me off guard. Just first of all, because the way it was shot, obviously I knew that it was a horror because it was on Shudder. I mean, so that was an easy presumption to make. But what really impressed me is that it doesn't look and feel like a horror film. Like even the build up, while it's interesting, doesn't take a lot of cues from like the tropes that you're used to that way. Like it feels like you're watching like the opening scenes of some sort of a dramedy, or like, for lack of a better way of putting it, cancel me if you want to, people, a chick flick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's only when certain things start sort of like coming to light and unraveling that you do get a taste of horror. And when it comes, it's very unexpected and very brutal. And it's one of those things where it kind of like, to a different effect, like we already briefly mentioned, I'll let you talk about more of the movie Soft and Quiet, where you get to this point where you're like, wow, this really escalated in a hurry, and I'm not quite sure whether it's more absurd or plausible that it got to this point. And it also just gives a really good dig at internet culture, in the way that I think online personas can become a bit of an addiction and like an escape for people. Like, rather than correcting your behavior or looking at yourself as a person deep down in an honest, constructive way, you can go online and put on a different mask, and then as far as the world at large is concerned, all is forgotten and forgiven. And obviously, in real life, it's not quite that simple or that convenient, and the movie definitely touches on that, among other things.
Guys, Mike, check private chat. I'll be back in like 15 minutes. I gotta do something.
Okay.
But my next Cactus Jack, which I'm sure Alexy, do you have it on your top 10? Yeah,
I do. Yeah,
we'll talk about it then. And Dead Streams after we talked about it. But I'll be back in 15.
All right. Well, we'll catch up with your picks and we'll just move forward then. Yeah, my issue, Sissy, for me, it was like I say, it's like a point I made earlier about just like a bunch of characters, and I can't find anybody to root for because they were just all pretty horrible human beings. I thought, I didn't really. There was nobody. I mean, obviously the main. I'm going into I can go into spoilers. It doesn't really matter because
that's fine. Yeah,
it's like obviously she's a complete fucking psychopath anyway. The so-called protagonist.
Yes.
And then obviously the friends, or so-called friends, they're all just selfish, vain, self-obsessed people, and it's when there's nobody to, I mean, I understand, it had its merits. I mean, obviously you really enjoyed it. For me, there was nobody to latch onto to really like root for, and when everybody is just equally sort of like, I can't. Sometimes it works with films where I can get through it just because I love the film so much. But if the film isn't grabbing me anyway, and then it's just a bunch of people who are just vain, self-obsessed, horrible people, then I really, really struggle to. It did have one kill though, man. The kill with the car and the head pop.
Yes.
Oh my god, I was not expecting that, because the film had been fairly brutal to a point. It being like fairly bloody, but not insanely bloody. It just being like, but that kill kind of took me by surprise, because I was not expecting that. That was something else. I was like, holy shit. I didn't see that.
Yeah. And the one at the end at the very end there where she's beating her, I think it was with a cane or a crutch or something, right? Yeah, that was also like, I didn't expect that to go quite that far either.
Yeah, face was just completely to a pulp. But yeah, so yeah.
But I mean, I know what you mean though. Like, it's not necessarily a picker upper, because like you said, everybody's very self-interested and very superficial. And I mean, even the one person there who sort of feels like she was her one sincere friend in the group, you sort of figure out, as Sissy herself does by the very end, that was really more of her sort of like, dishing out a pity card than anything else, you know what I mean, than really wanting to be friends with her.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess I just like that, because I mean, I think that most of us can relate to those sorts of experiences socially growing up, but it's something that people are sort of, I think, sometimes reluctant to talk about. And I like that the movie was willing to sort of, broach that sort of theme a little bit.
Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll go do my 4, your 4. We'll have to jump back to JT, and he can like.
That's fine. That's all good.
Quickly.
Yeah.
So my number 4 is a film I'm almost certain you haven't seen. I don't think anybody's seen this film. This is like a pretty deep cut. It actually dropped at the end of 2021, but it's a film that's so obscure that I think it only came to streaming this year. But it's a UK film called Bull.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it stars Neil Maskell. Have you seen Kill List?
I have seen Kill List. I love Kill List.
Yeah, so it's the main guy from Kill List.
Okay.
He's also he's in a lot of he's in a movie called Doghouse from like 2013 about a bunch of like zombie women. He always plays the same sort of like psychopathic character. This is just dark. I mean, this is what we do best, like us Brits. It's dark, it's gritty. Forget like Love Actually and all these soppy,
right,
posh fucking films with like, just like people in bowler hats and this is what the real Britain is like. And this is basically about a guy who works for his father-in-law. They're gangsters. They're kind of like mafia types, but English mafia types. So they basically take over businesses and like basically make the owners sign the business over to them. To usually involved in drug dealing.
Mm-hmm.
But the main guy, Neil Maskell, who is the guy from Kill List, he's working for his father-in-law, who, because he's married to the guy's daughter, but he's having relationship problems. She wants a divorce. That leads to trouble with him and the father-in-law. And him being a gangster, he's basically saying, she wants to leave you. You're going to have to leave her. They've got a kid. She's having the kid. You can't have him. He disagrees. He takes things into his own hands, and it kind of goes on a downward spiral from there.
Wow.
But it's just, I mean, some of the violence is just insane. I mean, it's not really spoiling anything, because I was kind of in two minds as to whether to class it as a horror film, but the final act kind of takes it into that realm without spoiling anything. But yeah, there's just a scene in like an abattoir where they're like carving up, cows and pigs and whatnot. And the guy who owns the business is basically, they want him to sign the business over because they want to use it for drug smuggling. And he's refusing. And then Bull, who's like obviously our main character, he just walks in with like a machete and just chops his fingers off. And it just doesn't cut away. The fingers just go. It's insanely violent. It's incredibly dark. It's depressing. It's, like I say, I love it. It's what like Brits do best. We do dark, depressing, grim movies, far better than we do uplifting, friendly, happy-go-lucky. This is what we do best. It's like, so yeah, Bull. Highly, highly recommend it.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to seek it out. I mean, I think I saw a post you did, and I thought that I maybe recognized the guy from Kill List or something like that. But in any case, I mean, I totally agree with you. Like you guys over there in the UK, when you want to get grim and nasty, there's not too many other people who do it better.
Have you seen Dead Man's Shoes?
Dead Man's Shoes.
Paddy
I don't think I have.
That's another one for 2004. Okay. Yeah, Paddy Considine. You'll know him from Hot Fuzz, and he's in like he's in the new Game of Thrones show, the latest one. He's in tons of things. Yeah, that's definitely one to watch.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, JT's back.
Yes, he is.
So what do we talk about?
Okay, so we're up to Alexy's number 4. You've not missed anything, JT. You've only missed me.
Oh, okay. That works.
Okay, so number 4 for me is The Menu with Ralph Fiennes.
Yeah, I gotta see that.
I loved that movie. It's definitely one of the best screenplays of the year. It was so sharp and so biting, but also very streamlined and understandable. Like a lot of movies like this can get a bit too clever for their own good, but this one here, you always understand exactly what is happening and why. And that's the other thing, is that they do a good job of letting you know as much as you need to know about like culinary culture to appreciate what's happening in the moment. But there's never any point where the movie feels like it's talking down to you when it comes to food culture. In fact, it's what food culture itself is one of the things that the movie is skewering very well. Because that's, I think, sort of a subcult that was kind of due for a bit of slappage anyways. So I was glad to see it kind of get its comeuppance here. And Ralph Fiennes is just just a speedball of intensity in this movie. I think it's probably the most intense he's ever been. And I think, like I said in my review, when you're the most intense person in the same room as John Leguizamo and Anya Taylor-Joy, like you're doing something very right.
Yeah, that's definitely on my top 3 of watches that I gotta check out, because I've been hearing nothing but amazing things about it.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. Like in a less crowded year, it could have been my number 1. I actually teased making this and everything else that I have leading up to my number 1 are all movies that I teased make my number 1 at least once. So this is very good. But anyway, I'm sorry, I digress.
JT, your number 4?
My number 4 was Deadstream, which we already talked about. So we don't need to really talk about it more. Awesome.
We're gonna be talking about movies now as we get into the top 3. Like we've already, I haven't said that. Yeah. So my number 3 is Barbarian, which obviously we've already discussed. I do love that 180 it does like halfway through the film, and it just cuts to just along, and we're just like, what the hell's going on? It's like, so is she dead? It's like we're just gonna, and then obviously it's setting up him to go to the house. Just along is, I wouldn't say he's the best thing about them. I do love the female lead. I wouldn't say he's the best. I was a bit disappointed about Skarsgård getting, bumped off, when he does. But just along is like he's always likable in everything he does. My only issue with the film is in the opening 20 minutes, when she goes down into the cellar and you see the setup with the camera and like the bed, and it's all a bit, dirty and dingy and grimy. I thought they were going to go with a more of a torture porn sort of, like it's kind of like, people getting held hostage and just getting filmed doing all sort of crazy shit. Where it was kind of, the idea that it was just this like, sort of like inbred monster thing living underneath it was a little bit People Under the Stairs from Wes Craven, if you know what I mean. It was kind of a bit more, I wouldn't say it was light-hearted, because obviously it's quite a dark premise what went on, but I just thought it was going to be a little bit more rooted in reality, and it was going to be maybe a little bit like The Black Phone without the supernatural elements, and like have people getting chained up and all that sort of shit. So I kind of didn't care much for like that whole idea of like this, giant freak who's been living underneath the floorboards for 30 years. I did love the flashback scene though, with the guy whose name escapes me, who's in all the Rob Zombie movies.
Richard Brake.
Yeah, I love the flashback to like a time before it became run down, and it shows the street, when it was all like, picket fences and whatnot. But yeah, I just didn't care for the whole, I mean, it's number 3 on my list, so I sound like I'm shitting on it. The high points do completely outnumber the low points, but I just wish it had been a little bit darker than what it was. So yeah, that's my number 3. So Alexy, what's your number 3?
Number 3 for me is Cactus Jack, directed by the Thornton brothers, and which honestly, I mean, not to turn this into a big mutual admiration society, but I wouldn't have even heard about it if it weren't for JT. So thank you. This was such a good surprise. It was a breath of fresh air on pretty much every level. I mean, it didn't hurt that these were people that I had not heard of before, and God willing, we'll find a much bigger audience. But it tackles, the subject kind of like, I mean, without getting too sort of like spoilery here, because I don't think, JT, you haven't seen Soft and Quiet yet, have you?
No.
Okay. Just to say that, like, it's a movie that, like that one does very frankly deal with racist rhetoric. So if that's not, for everybody, I mean, I can understand that. But if you're willing to stomach that, it's a very striking and very memorable character study of a guy who essentially has, through his own deep-seated worthlessness that he's never dealt with in any constructive, honest way, has just allowed himself to be a cauldron of hate. He just emptied his hate out and let all the hatred in the world just pour right in there and make a nest. And the way that our Michael Gull plays him, that's the actor playing the title character, Cactus Jack, this guy just throws himself into it without any sort of concern for self-preservation whatsoever. He doesn't ever try to make the guy likable at all, and it is just it's searing to watch. It's just phenomenal. It's one of the first times I've been genuinely scared and disturbed, and also fascinated by a character like that in a while. And it's I think, as I said in my review there, you look at it, and at least on print on IMDb and whatnot, there's been a lot of disparaging reviews and a lot of negative reviews, and a little bit like Soft and Quiet, a lot of reviews that are just dismissing it simply on the basis of its subject.
Yeah.
But I think that when you're dealing with a subject like this, putting it in a formula, whether it's a courtroom drama or a thriller or something like that, sometimes that's a bit too comforting. Like, there isn't any formula here to make you comfortable. It's just a couple of hours spent with someone who is very deeply disturbed. And I think because it doesn't hold your hand and it lets you sort of decide for yourself how you feel about that, that's not something that a lot of people are comfortable with. And I think that's where that side of it comes from. But for me, it was just a completely sort of cinematic experience. And that's saying a lot considering that they shot it on phones. So there you go.
Yeah, that was my top 5. It easily could have been switched with Deadstream. They're at the same spot, basically. But
yeah,
what a surprise for this year. Like, I heard about it from Al Lucard, and then Michael Gull, the actor, messaged me on Instagram and said if you wanted to check out the movie, and sent me a code or link to watch it. And just blown away by his performance. Like, Michael Gull's performance in this is like my top 3 performances of the year. Like, with Mia Goth as number 1 and David Howard Thornton as number 2. He's right there, number 3. Like, he absolutely destroyed that role. And then just when I was able to have him on the channel afterwards and see how opposite of that he is, and he's the sweetest human being.
More different, right?
Yeah, it's just, you really see how he dove headfirst into that role, like, completely, and just like changed into another human being on screen, basically. It's not even on screen, it's on phone, like, which is just amazing that they recorded that on some phones. Is unreal, like, because it really is it's an amazing character study, and it's not for everybody because of all the content in it and the racist remarks and stuff that this guy is making. So I can see all those negative stuff, and especially like all the reviews is on IMDb and other places that it's heavy right and it's against the left, or it's the left's complaint. It's nothing to do with any of that shit. Like it's nothing to do with politics. It's character study deep into this deeply disturbed human being.
Yeah, and you know, when a movie is pissing off both sides of that spectrum, I think that's when you know it's doing something right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they just what a great fucking indie horror movie that I hope more people get to see and actually look into and watch it, because it's absolutely worth it.
I hope so. I would love to see it on a big screen if that was ever possible. I don't know how that would happen, but
absolutely, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Anyway,
JT, what's your number 3 then, man?
My number 3 is Terrifier 2.
Okay.
Absolutely loved it. I am a slasher fan full and through, and I loved All Hallows Eve. I loved the character of Art the Clown in that. And then when Terrifier came out, I absolutely adored that movie, and this was just better in every single way. The practical effects are amazing. It's over the top. It's supposed to be over the top. It's just a fun ass movie.
It's very long.
Oh yeah, I don't. It doesn't matter. Like it flew by. It flies by for me. Like I never looked at the time. I never looked and said how long is left of this movie. It was just a blast through and through. I've rewatched it since I first saw it, and it holds up the same way. And Art the Clown is just amazing. David Howard Thornton's performance is amazing. Lauren Lavera's performance is absolutely awesome too. Can't say anything negative about it. It's just an absolutely fun film.
I would say it's not. I went into it like expecting it to be more gory than what it was actually, and it was definitely a lot of blood and guts, but the sort of like infamous like bedroom scene, I thought that was going to be worse than what it was, because I don't think anything quite matched up to the hacksaw scene in the first film. I don't think anything matched that in terms of that was far more gruesome than anything I saw in 2. But I mean, it was like I say, it was an honourable mention to me. I'm not the biggest fan of Art the Clown. I wasn't a fan of the first movie. I think this film has certainly got a lot more going for it. It's a hell of a lot better acted, more likable characters. I say that the length was a little bit of an issue with me. I don't think you can ever justify a 2-hour, 15-minute slasher film. In any. But yeah, I mean, each to their own. I mean, yeah, I just thought for me it was just a little bit too long, but it was. I had a fun time with it.
Alexy, thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, I had a blast with it too. I mean, it's still up on. It's yet to be revealed on my list, but it's going to be there. Don't you worry.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh my God. I could just start gushing if I wasn't careful. But I mean, for me, the length never really bothered me. I think just because the underlying energy level was at such a fever pitch. Like there was so much passion that went into it that it just kind of transcended any small issues like over length, which I didn't especially feel the length. That was the one thing I was worried about going in, is that like, okay, am I really going to make it through 2.5 hours of this? But as soon as the movie got started, it never bothered me for a second, just because I think that they put everything that they had on the movie. They left everything on the table. This was just made with such an unbridled sense of just abandon. It's like, you know, who gives a shit if this is going to make us famous for $1 million? We got one chance to show this movie to people on a big screen. Let's just go for it. And they put everything that they had, like cast and crew, top to bottom, into the movie, and that sheer level of commitment and passion transcended anything like the running time or the pace for me. And again, I have to refrain. I thought that both of those were very good as well. And yeah, Art the Clown, just that the character really came alive in this one. I mean, he was already a lot of fun in the first one, but this is where I think he carves out more of a distinction for himself. It's because, and I think this is maybe why some people had such a reaction to the violence. And I know what you mean, Mike. There's nothing in there that made me feel like I was going to vomit. But I think sometimes it's one of those things where it's the attitude and the approach. because like it really lingers on it. Like it's not like Art spends forever killing these people, but he's like a cat, you know, he's sitting there playing with his food after he's done killing them. I think it's the way, and it's that sort of lingering motif. I mean, that's also what separates him from other slashers. But I think that whenever you have anything violent, any violent image that is lingered on, for whatever reason, that seems to really get, you know, certain people in the audience and people in ratings boards. That I don't know why, but that always seems to really get their alarm bells ringing. So maybe that's where that sort of hype comes from. So no, I didn't ever feel like I was going to lose it that way. But yeah, on the whole, like, yeah, just like JT said, I haven't literally, I can't think of a single bad thing I can say about it, honestly.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, on to number 2 then. My number 2 is Soft and Quiet. I only saw this film about 2 weeks ago. So I went into it completely blind. I had no idea. I just had heard talk about it. I didn't read any synopsis for it. So I just put it on. And for the first 10 minutes, something, it's the way they film it. It's very much like, have you seen 1917? It's just like, looks like one long take. There are cuts, but you can't see them. It just looks like it's like it's filmed in real time. And it just looks like a bunch of like, you know, sort of like women in the sort of like 30s and 40s getting together, having like afternoon tea. And then somebody produces a pie. And I won't go into any more detail than that. But
oh boy,
like,
the pie.
Yeah, and then you're like,
oh boy,
oh, okay, this is not going where I was expecting it to go. And yeah, so things kind of transpire from there. We go to a scene in a liquor store, and that's where shit hits the fan. And I really don't want to, because I know JC, you haven't seen it. I really don't want to. I don't really want, and obviously Alexy, you'll know where I'm coming from. It's to reveal anything about this film is really to do it. It's gonna spoil any, you know, it's not gonna spoil the film. You're still gonna enjoy it, but you really need to go to it completely blind to get the full impact of the film.
I second that.
I don't really want to reveal too much. So just for JT's sake, and anyone in the chat, if you've not seen Soft and Quiet, then definitely check it out, because it's definitely, it's one of those movies, and it's like, it's more, for me, it's far more disturbing than something like Terrifier 2. There's no gore, there's no blood, but it's just the most disturbing. Reality is scarier than fiction, you know, and there are people like this who exist, and they're far more terrifying than a clown, a sadistic clown, you know. So that's all I can really say, because I don't really want to, what can I say?
You really got to tap dance around it if you're talking to someone who hasn't seen it, because it's a very hard movie to talk about without spoilers. But well, I think it's just but it's like the sheer just plausibility and just like, and the very sort of like commonplace nature on the surface that these people have, you know, is the part that makes it chilling. Because I think like there's even one character at one point in the movie there who even sort of says, I mean, I'll be vague here again about the context in which it's said, just not to spoil anything, but she asks, like, I mean, like, I'm not really that scary, am I? And this person is not scary, and oddly enough, that's kind of what makes them collectively scary, is that there's nothing scary about them on the surface, but they're out there sowing their seeds in this issue every day, you know. And it's not just happening in the obvious places that you think this sort of thing would. It's happening in, you know, in elementary schools, at the local corner store, and it's just very chilling.
So
we'll be watching that.
Alexy, what's your number 2 then?
Number 2 is Pearl, which I think we already sort of talked about that one, I think, a bit, did we not? I think we touched on it.
It was in my honorable
too, so we can we'll be talking about it.
Just Mia Goth's performance, that is just one of the most, it's the single most sort of raw, affecting performance I've seen all year. And there's a lot of other things I could say about the movie, but it was designed to be a showcase for her, and to that degree, it was a home run for me. Like, I mean, there's that one, of course, everybody knows about that one long take where she delivers a monologue that, again, if we're this not sort of associated with the horror genre and more so over being a horror movie that is looking at people within the sex industry, I would say that nominations for her would be a friggin' lock at this point. I mean, with any luck, she still will at least get a nod or two here and there, but I have a feeling that, you know, there's a lot of people who are going to be a little bit, you know, blind to that, but it's it made her a star in my mind. I mean, she was already sort of up and coming anyways, but this is the one that sort of cemented her in my brain as you know, one of my new favorite actresses. Like, it was just spotless work. So it was a total triumph on her part.
Absolutely.
JT, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is X, and we've talked about it, and I'll just blanket it again. Just excellent in every way. I think it's a masterpiece from this year, and just can't say a negative thing. Absolutely amazing film.
I think we know what your number 1's going to be as well. So
yeah.
Okay, so let's get to number 1s anyway. My number 1, which is a film nobody's mentioned yet, I don't think anybody is going to mention, is Men.
The Alex Garland movie.
Yeah. I thought this. I had to rewatch it a couple of times because watching it the first time, there's a lot of subjective stuff going on. It's kind of what you make of it, and it does require like a few watches to really get what's going on. And again, some of it's subjective. So you can take away from it what you want, but it's kind of like it's almost like a dream watching the film. Jessie Buckley, I think her name is, like an Irish actress who plays the lead role. She's just fantastic. I mean, she carries the movie. Lorne loves men. We all love men. Yeah, it's what. Again, if you've not seen the film, it's kind of hard to really go into too much detail because there are things that happen that if you're looking for them already, then it kind of spoils part of the movie. But the thing it does well, it just scenes can play out for like 15 to 20 minutes and you're completely engrossed. And it's definitely what you consider a slow burn. And I'm not always a fan of slow burn movies, but like I say, there's a scene where, you know, she just goes on a 20-minute walk through the countryside and comes to a tunnel. And literally very little happens in that 20 minutes or 15 minutes or so. But you're just completely hooked. You're completely engrossed with what's going on. And then, you know, have you seen the film or am I?
I haven't seen it.
I haven't. I mean, I heard about it and I was keeping an eye out for it just because I've loved Alex Garland's stuff previously, but didn't see that one yet. No.
So I can give a kind of backstory. You know, a young woman is in. It kind of hints that it's kind of an abusive relationship. I think it's a husband. He dies supposedly by suicide. She moves. This is in London. She then moves to the countryside, like a very small village in the middle of nowhere, to like take time away to recuperate, and then is introduced to various characters who, let's just say, are of a rather sinister nature, where the men come in, basically. I can't really say much more than that without going to spoilers. But yeah, it's definitely a bit of a mindfuck. You know, it's the last 20 minutes pretty much go to some like really, really kind of like body horror territory, to put it mildly. But yeah, I highly, highly recommend it. It's soundtrack is fucking phenomenal as well. Absolutely phenomenal soundtrack. But that is my number 1.
That's one that I heard a lot about earlier this year, and it just never got around to watching it. So that's another one on my list. For sure.
You know, Mike, is the composer of the soundtrack, is that the same guy who he's worked with on his any of his previous films or not, because I remember I've liked scores of his other movies as well. I'm just curious. Do you know?
I don't know, to be fair.
Okay, fair enough. How about you?
All right, what Alexy's number one?
I guess it is me again, isn't it? Let's see there. Yeah, my number one horror movie this year was Terrifier 2. I mean, we've already slurped up that movie a lot, so I don't know if I need to go into much more detail. Except to just add that it was, first of all, like the perfect Halloween theater experience for me. Like I saw this movie on October 30th, right? It was the late show. There was the wind was rustling. There was a little bit of rain coming down outside. Me and maybe a handful of other people were in the theater, and it all just, it felt like Halloween outside, and it felt like it watching that movie. And then when I got out of the movie, it was like midnight exactly. So it was kind of like I had this great watershed moment enjoying this movie, and it essentially escorted me right into Halloween 2022. And it's just beyond that, just I think such a triumphant moment for independent horror. And I mean, the term independent gets thrown around so much now that it's almost like its own little sort of like, I don't know, superficial genre. But movies like this and Cactus Jack, like that is real independent horror, and I'm just so ecstatic to see it doing this well. Yeah.
JT, I think we know what your number one is. Well,
my number one, of course, yes, you do, is Pearl, which we talked about a bit, but Jesus, man, like Mia Goth is just unbelievable in this. Like she was amazing in X, and the only other thing I saw her in before X was Suspiria, the remake, and she did a great job in that. And she's a gorgeous woman. But God, the monologue that she gives at the end, man, like Alexy was saying,
holy crap, yeah,
it's just award-worthy acting right there. Just unbelievable. Like I can't remember the last time recently that I was just glued to the screen and just like processing every single line coming out of an actress's mouth. Like just unbelievable acting throughout, and just the whole movie. I mean, I feel like a lot of people who liked X who don't like Pearl were expecting.
I got that impression too for some reason. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they were expecting more of a horror movie, where this is more of just a character study, deep dive into Pearl's past that has some horrific elements and disturbing stuff in it for sure. But it's not like a straight up horror film. So I can see for like the horror fans who did not like it but liked X, I could see why. But God, it was just Ty West is just an absolute master this year. And if Maxine next year is anywhere close to the two of them, what an amazing trilogy.
Oh, it's a landmark trilogy. If he pulls that third one off, man, then
it'll be his magnum probably for his whole career. Yeah, Pearl is for me.
Go back to a film I mentioned before, Resurrection, with Tim Roth. The monologue from the name of the actress escapes me, but she puts in a monologue in that film, which is just on a level of Mia Goth's in Pearl. It's just so good. When she goes and discuss to a work colleague about the effect that Tim Roth, because Tim Roth, it was basically an abusive relationship, and Tim Roth was an emotionally abusive individual on her character. And the monologue she delivers in that film, again, it's on that level of Mia Goth's. It's again, I mean, it didn't make my top 10, but Resurrection, highly recommend it. Again, it's more of a psychological horror. You know, it's certainly not a gore fest, but that highly recommend that one. My issue with Pearl, was I never really got the jump from it just being like, it kind of never really explained how she became just a psychopathic killer. I mean, it's not as if she's been abused sexually or physically as a child, from what I can gather. It's just she's got a strict upbringing from obviously from a mother, but she goes from just being like, you know, I'm not saying she's a normal girl, but she becomes a killer without for me, there doesn't seem to be much explanations to why she becomes the way she is. It just seems to go from 0 to 100 in the space of half an hour of screen time. And I never really kind of understood how she went from what she was to what she ended up being at the end of the film.
I think a lot of that is like, she obviously, like you said, she's not normal. Like, she obviously had issues, like, before the events of the movie that we see, like, for sure. And she does have the mom who is, she's emotionally abusive, 100%. Physically, like, not until that scene with them where she burns her alive. Do we see like any type of physical abuse? But like, was there any? I don't know. But like, she's trying to, like Lorne just put in there, when she tries exploring her sexuality and having her husband away, then just her dream of being a dancer and everything, and then having her sister-in-law get that, win that competition over her. All those things, I think, just build up inside of her to the point that she just, snaps. And then from then on, she just gets crazier, and we see her even crazier in X. But the way they handle it, I love it so much. Like, they really, like, they make you feel bad for her. Like you said, you couldn't feel bad for her, but I did. Like, I felt bad for her. I felt disturbed by her. I felt scared of her. I felt like pity for her. Like, so many different emotions and feelings for that character, and they just did an amazing job with her.
I probably need to rewatch it, to be fair. I mean, I did watch it the one time. I think it's a film that requires, a couple of views to really,
it could
get the full.
It is a layered film for sure.
Yeah. It probably doesn't help watching X first and then going into Pearl with maybe these preconceived ideas about the character anyway. It's like
that could be a thing too.
But I think I'm in the minority.
That's the best.
I think I'm in the minority of an X more. No, yeah, I think a lot of people seem to prefer Pearl than X. But
I almost, but Pearl gets the edge just a little bit, just because of Mia Goth's amazing performance throughout, which she gave in X. Everyone did. Like, Jenna Ortega is amazing in it. I'm so happy to see her up and coming, like, getting recognition. I know she was in Scream 5, which I don't give a shit about, but she was in something else recently. But
she was in the Wednesday series as well.
Actually. Yeah. I saw her in You on Netflix, the show on Netflix, You.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw her in the second season of that, and that was the first time I ever saw her. That was a few years ago. And I said, even then, this girl's an amazing actress. After like a few episodes, I was like, I hope she gets like better, like good things and stuff in her career. Then I saw that she was in Scream, and I said, I could have been in a better horror movie, but I'm like, all right, it's great that she got that. And then I saw her in X, and she killed it. And then she's becoming like a modern Scream queen for sure, and she killed it. Lee Snow destroys it in X too, and Kid Cudi too. Like, everybody in that movie just did an amazing job. But Mia Goth's performance in Pearl is just beats it a little bit.
And I think there's a lot more craft. Like, once you watch it a couple more times, and you're able to look past Mia Goth's performance, which granted is hard even like on the second watch. But there's so much subtle craftsmanship that goes into creating, like, the look of the period that it was shot in. But without it ever feeling like a stunt or like a cheap trick, it always just felt very correct. You know what I mean?
Like, it was just perfectly meant. It was meant to be there for the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, nothing about the story feels manufactured in any way.
No.
Didn't they film X and Pearl like in New Zealand or somewhere? Or it certainly wasn't. It wasn't filmed in Texas, that's for sure.
No, it was somewhere over there. Yeah. And they filmed them back to back, which is even more impressive. That both those movies are fucking outstanding, and they were filmed back to back. And he wrote the prequel, Pearl, while he was in his trailer and stuff, like when they were shooting X. So, like, just imagine shooting a movie and you're writing a prequel to it, and that movie is just absolutely phenomenal too.
Yeah, and I think he and Mia Goth wrote it together, did they not? Or am I wrong about that? I think the second, and I think actually, didn't Mia Goth and Ty West, didn't they write Pearl together. Am I wrong about that?
Wrote it with them,
yeah,
which is awesome. And she was so enthusiastic just to jump into that, stay in that role, and jump into her past and everything. And it shows like how eager to do that now. She did.
Anyway,
Pearl and act.
I think that wraps up our. I think that just about wraps up our top 10 of the year. We've been going for nearly 3 hours. So
top 10
certainly went on
of 2020.
Yeah, it went on a lot. We spent like almost as long talking about honorable mentions as we did about the top 10. I thought we were going to be here all night. But certainly an interesting. I think all 3 lists were quite varied. I don't think there was like when I first went into doing the top 10. I was like went on my IMDb like ratings for what I've done for the year, and I was like thinking I'm going to be struggling for 10 films, and I ended up coming away with like 22 films to like fit into the top 10. I was actually really surprised by how many films there was that I actually regarded as decent horror films. Before I went into it, I thought I'll be struggling for 13 or 14 films, and to come away with like, I think in the end it was like 22, 23 films, and I was so it's been a really, really good year. I mean, hopefully 2023 carries on. I mean, we've got Terror Train 2 to look forward to tonight and tomorrow. So, if Tubi keeps on releasing more Terror Train movies,
that's right.
We can't. But I've got Scream 6 as well coming in March.
We'll get a new franchise. It'll be like Terror Train 8.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, Scream 6. Anyway. Can't wait. I can't. Still haven't seen the 5th one.
I know you're looking forward to that one, GT. So
I will soon get it out of the way.
So I'll start wrapping things up now. Alexy, do you want to plug your channel before we go? I've put a link underneath for your channel anyway, but
for sure. Just look up my name, Alexy Gammer, on YouTube or on Twitter for that matter, and I'll be there. The reviews have fallen off a bit lately, but I'm gonna hopefully correct that, relatively soon and get back into a more regular schedule with it. But just keep an eye on it. I tend to focus on horror. It's not all I do, but that's kind of my mainstay, kind of like these guys here. So yeah, views are appreciated.
Yeah, if you're not subscribed to am I pronouncing your name wrong? Should I be calling you Alec? Because I'm saying Alexy. Is it Al? Should I be
Alexy?
Alexy. Okay.
There you go. It's okay. Alexy. You wouldn't be the first, my friend. It's all good.
Yeah.
You gotta spell it next time too, Mike.
Well, I know I'm pronouncing JT right, so that's
actually you're pronouncing it wrong, man. We're correcting you.
JT, plug your channel, man.
JT's Horror Discussions. Pretty sure everyone in the chat knows that for the most part. And I will be doing. I got a theme for January, like usual. So I will be doing some fun movies.
Yeah, links to both channels are in the description below, and also a link to the new novel by Lorne Dixon, Divide by Zero. So if you've not bought the book yet, there it is in paperback. It's also available in hardback and Kindle. There is a link to the Amazon page directly in the link below the video. So yeah, support Lorne. Big fan of the channel. Big fan of his channel. Always representing the horror community. Our little thing we've got going on. And I've read the first chapter. And it's fucking awesome. So
yeah, I will have on my community page. I will have a link to his book and all his previous ones because he's
actually
amazing.
I actually know a proper author. I can barely write my name, and he can write books.
All right, guys.
And he's always there explaining films to me.
Order here, so I got the book. But thanks for having me. This has been an awesome year for sure.
Yeah, thanks for having me too, man.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Problem. No problem. It's been awesome.
I'm gonna try to have a stream at some point tomorrow night. I don't know for what, just like a random New Year's stream, but I'll try to do that. So that will probably be a possibility.
Yeah. Thanks for being on board, guys. Yeah. Yeah. I'm wrapping things up now anyway, GT. So, yeah. Thanks, Alex. I can't pronounce your Alexy.
Alexy. There you go.
Alexy. Thank you, Alexy. I still can't do it.
It's okay.
Thank you,
It's okay.
Everyone in the chat, awesome. Thank you, guys. I'll see you in 2023. Good night.
Godspeed.